session of the Normandy Schools Collaborative to order. Can we do that by roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. President Hodge.
I did say regular. I'm sorry, it's our regular meeting by roll call. Thank you.
Yes, sir. President Hodge.
Present.
Vice President Humphrey.
Yes, present.
Secretary Taylor.
Present.
Director Edwards.
Present.
Director Milton Roberts.
Present.
Director Pearson.
Present.
Student Representative Alex Belton. Thank you.
Thank you. We have established a quorum. Would you all please stand with me as we conduct our Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States and to the republic for this standing, one nation, under God, peaceful, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We appreciate your presence here tonight. As we regularly do, the second item on our agenda is to establish our board norms. Director Pearson, can you please open us up with our board norms?
Good evening, everyone. We use facts and data to inform our decisions in accordance with the interests of the overall district as a whole and not any particular segment thereof. We will support the delegate of authority of the superintendent in the day-to-day district operations and act in accordance with the 6 governing documents. We support the board decisions. We come to the board meetings informed and prepared. We honor our elected role by being in attendance. We will honor our voices by being encouraging individual input and listening to others.
Thank you, Director Pierce. At this point, we would like to, I'd like to entertain a motion to make an adjustment to our agenda. I would like to entertain a motion to move item 8.07, which is a presentation from Better Family Life. I do believe that they are present here with us this evening. Is that true? Great, thank you so much. I'd like to entertain a motion to move item 8.07, a presentation from Better Family Life from our consent agenda to item 7.04 on our agenda, items for the discussion and action. Do I have a motion?
So
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Are there, by all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Thank you so much. The motion passes to move that item to 7.04. With that being so, item number 3.01, the approval of the agenda. We've had an opportunity to look over that agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve that agenda.
moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same privilege. Thank you for your approval of the agenda for tonight. At this point, we would like to ask Officer Campbell. I don't see him.
Right here.
Oh, there he is. It's the smudge on my. He's clean today. Thank you so much. You recognize him. Can you please prepare public comments?
Good evening.
Evening.
Thank you so much. And I would like to just point out, as a part of the consent agenda tonight, is an updated form that you all have access to. So all of the concerns that are brought up in this form are tracked by our district administration, and we update the community on the actions that have been taken related to those particular concerns. So tonight, you will not hear comments from the board or a reaction from any of those administrators that are here tonight. We take those under consideration and we follow up in a timely manner. All right. With that being said, I'd like to invite Mr. John Kintry to the podium.
My name is John Kintry. I'm a retired librarian from St. Louis Public Library. My message is about integrating lessons on the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Earth Charter into the curriculum at every grade level. This relates to the district's mission statement to prepare global leaders. It also relates to the possibility of building a global digital platform that can have conversations with millions of people around the world at the same time and can merge the knowledge and sentiment expressed in those conversations into a greater whole. For now, according to the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is already considered to be part of international law. What does the law say? One of my favorites is Article 12. It says, "No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with their privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to attacks on their honor and reputation. Everyone has the right to protection of the law from such interference and attacks." I think that is completely consistent with loving my neighbor as myself. So if the board does this, we should do it in a big way and involve the students, teachers, parents, administrators, executive board, and members of the surrounding community in finding stories that illustrate the lessons, that illustrate the principles in action, and also stories that illustrate the principles, the law being violated. We learn from stories and we learn from both our successes and our mistakes. There is an emerging digital intelligence that is learning from us. I think we would be wise to teach it well. We can all learn about the principles together. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no more comments for this evening. I encourage all of you, those here with us tonight and those who may be watching virtually, to exercise your right to be heard in this district and to be a part of this governing process. Thank you, Mr. Ketron, for your presentation tonight. Kintry. Thank you, sir. With that, we'd like to move on to item 5.01, public recognition. And I believe that Mr. Trehan will introduce this section.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Triplett. We have a true lifesaver in our audience today. I'd like to recognize Ms. Joycelyn Allen, who serves as an SSD social worker at Washington Elementary. Last May, during an event that she was having with her students, she noticed that one of the students was choking. She quickly jumped into action and applied her CPR first aid certification and training to clear the obstruction from the student's throat. We want to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Allen for her heroic efforts and unwavering dedication to the students under her care.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
And we've got one more recognition. I will turn this over to Board President Harlan Hodge.
We are a community that is united around the academic performance and the well-being of our children. Um, Many times we will, as adults, act in what we believe is the best interest of the young people whom we serve. And we don't necessarily ask them what they want or need in the process. This board made a concerted effort to make sure, and the school district makes a concerted effort to hear from our young people. And I think it should be recognized that our superintendent is the biggest fan of the voices of young people and has worked diligently to make sure that their voices are heard at every level of this district. We've been very fortunate to have a young person on our board this year who has been an advocate for her classmates and for her school and for her district. We are extremely grateful for her board service this year. And so tonight, we ask you all to help us celebrate the contributions and the excellent role model that Alex Belton has been for this board and for this district.
Standing job. Sorry. Alex, you know, family the order so many different ways. And this true spirits of us saying great. Great photo. Get your first Academy Award. She had her first Academy Award.
While there's a lot to celebrate in our district, I think that's all of our public recognitions at this time. And with that being said, let's move to item 6.01, safety and security. I'm going to ask Norm Campbell to come back to the podium.
Yes, sir. Board President, members of the board, Superintendent. Just want to give you a quick update on, can you hear me?
No.
Oh,
Barely.
that's the first time no one's ever heard me. Just want to give you a quick update on safety and security and the things we have going on. Centegix is our major endeavor right now, and it is 100% completely installed. And all of our staff and central office has been trained pretty much, except for a few people that are on vacation. And Warner Communication, our two-way radio system, is being installed as we speak. So those are our big two in safety and security.
Great. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for Officer Cam?
Good evening. You said that it is installed.
Yes.
Centrix is installed in the
Centegix.
What's the Centegix? Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the other one?
The Warner Communications, our two-way radio system that we're getting.
Radios. That's all I have. Thank you.
I just have a question. So
Yeah.
over the summer months, will
We can't hear you.
sorry, I'm so not. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Over the summer months, will there be like an assessment of all the schools so that we can see if there's anything else that we need to do before school starts?
Yes, ma'am. So we're in the process too of working with some federal bureaus to come in and do a security assessment of the whole entire district.
Thank you.
Other questions for Officer Campbell? Thank you so much, Officer Campbell. We believe that the security and safety of our district is foundational to everything that we do. And so we appreciate you updating us on this process. If there are things that you are going to present on and share with us, we'd love to get that information before our board meeting so that we can share that publicly. But thank you so much for
Yes.
that update.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6.02, Student Support Services Department update. Dr. Brooks.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The biggest rock for student support services right now is summer school. Right now, we have 605 students who are actively enrolled in summer school from early learning center all the way to high school. As you know, summer school started on June 5th and it'll end on July 3rd. Some of the pros, I asked the principals what were some of the pros and some of the challenges thus far. Some of the pros were the curriculum for summer school is amazing. The children are engaged and they are enjoying their learning experiences. And also there's high morale and collaboration among staff, which is great to hear. The primary challenge is streamlining the registration process. We started this process in February. I wanted to get ahead of the curve, so we've been meeting every week. Even in doing so, once summer school began, we saw how we can perfect it. So we've already began the process of creating a playbook for summer school for next year. In visiting the sites, everything is organized. We have buses running on tiers. That's something that, again, Ms. Weaver has worked on, as well as Ms. Moore with food services. Both of them have done what we've asked, and so far so good with summer school. I'm expecting growth this year, and we will be looking at data this year to see how our students specifically are doing when compared to what they were doing during the year. So that's what we have as far as the big rocks.
Okay. Thank you. Questions for Dr. Brooks?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Were there any issues with those students who had submitted paperwork? Did they have any problems on the initial first days of summer school?
Yes, ma'am. Some parents, by the letter saying summer school was mandatory, and it's been saying that, some families felt that there wasn't a need, or maybe they didn't think that there was a need for registration because of that. There was a registration form attached with the letter. So for next year, we're going to make sure that we have that clarity. In addition to, we're going to have our family engagement liaisons as well as our parent engagement and a community involvement person, Ms. Ellis, reach out ahead of time prior to summer school even starting and letting them know and bringing clarity to that. So that was an issue.
Okay. The reason that I did ask that question is because my granddaughter had actually signed up for the summer school. We were waiting for paperwork for bus route. We never got it. So on Monday, on the 5th, she didn't attend summer school. So for the first 2 days, she didn't attend. And she took it upon herself as a freshman. She took it upon herself to call and to inquire, and she was told that she did not have to attend summer school, and she had also been marked as a no-show, no-call for those 2 days. And so that's why I asked the question, because we never received anything through the mail, nor email, nor phone call to say, hey, this is an issue. And there was one other parent there with my daughter. She did take her up to CASA,
Mhm.
and they did explain to her that she did not have to attend because, I guess because of her grades, she did not have to attend, but she had signed up for it.
Mhm.
So that was just a question that I wanted to ask, whether any other issues, around in that area.
Right. No, that was the primary issue that we had with summer school,
Okay.
as far as that point of clarity right there.
Okay.
And that wasn't the only situation. Hence, we're working now to start improving on that versus waiting till February of next year. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Taylor.
Can I, just a thought,
yes, ma'am.
possible that you could make it, instead of people opting into summer school, that they're opting out of summer school?
That is something to consider. The only issue with that is that we, in planning, if we want all 3,000, of our students to be in summer school, we have to make concessions for that, including ordering supplies and materials. So ideally, in us identifying curriculum and instruction, identifying early those students who have the greatest growth, that's our focus. But we, eventually, we would like to have those who want to come and those who need to come as well.
Can I add to that if I could? Actually, summer school, you want to make sure you cover all of those students who have F&Ds and who are credit deficient. Those students get the first dibs at summer school. So, and then we backfill with student enrichment. So the focus is F&D students and credit deficient students,
That makes sense.
and or sixth grade academy and ninth grade academy.
Thank you.
No problem. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a couple questions. My first question would be, how many students weren't able to attend summer school that was told that it was mandatory because of enrollment issues?
Well, there was a total of about 1,850. But regardless of being, some of them just didn't show, period. There was a group of students who did come, specifically at the high school, at the secondary level, who were allowed to. The biggest problem with changing the number is, again, curriculum and instruction having to order supplies. So we had to put a cutoff date. But the difference is, if you're talking about credit recovery, as Dr. Triplett was mentioning, they don't need those supplies. They need a computer, and we were able to provide that. IT was able to provide that. So while other grade levels outside of high school had to have that and maintain that cap, those students that came from the high school, they were able to still get those accommodations for summer school.
Okay. My other question is, as far as our incoming ninth grade students, was it considered for them to attend summer school so they can possibly be proactive in credits versus reactive and trying to make them up later? Because
Yes.
I have an incoming ninth grader that was turned away, so she has not attended.
Yeah.
So what do we do? How was that rectified? Were they also given computers?
Yes, ma'am, they were. And again, it was the group of eighth graders that are now in the freshman academy were those students that were deficient. So if we had students that were able to come at the high school level, they would have been able to come after the first 2 days. But technically, after the first 2 days, you're somewhat behind. So the real focus was on the group of students that were deficient. So we may have missed some of our students who have been there supplementary.
And again, Director Edwards, ninth grade academy for the ninth graders, that's just like a bridge program, an introduction to high school, and so they're not receiving grades for it. It's just an introduction to get them situated and used to being in the ninth grade. That's the premises of the ninth grade and sixth grade academies.
Can I ask a question? So just to clarify, so was it open to all sixth graders and all ninth graders, or was it only sixth and ninth graders that had some academic challenge?
No, for summer school period, the focus was on those who were deficient, but it was open to all sixth and ninth graders.
So if you were a rising sixth grader and you were doing okay with your skills, if they had a spot for you, they could still.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
otherwise, they weren't enrolled unless mom, dad, somebody said, "Hey, can you enroll my kid?"
Correct.
Okay, all right. I was just trying to make sure I understood.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions? But Dr.
I
Brooks.
also add, and I would also like to add, Director Milton Roberts, in the past, if that child has been deficient in their grades, there was a letter sent
Okay.
stating that that child would have to attend summer school, because I know that has happened with my granddaughter in the past.
Yes, ma'am. That happened this year as well. When we had parent-teacher conferences, parents were made, if they showed, it was discussed with the teacher. If not, they were mailed to those parents.
Thank you. That's what I just wanted to make
Thank
sure I
you.
understood. Thank you.
Director Belton, are there any questions? Director Pearson. Okay. We've heard from Milton Roberts. Erica Edwards, Violet Taylor, Director Humphrey, Vice President Humphrey.
The only thing I would say is that I know that, within the district, uh, this time next year, I think we need to plan for a more robust summer school in that we have a number of students that are 1, 2, and 3 years behind in their learning. And so we got to figure out, how to support those students, because if we don't do anything over the summer, then we're going to deal with learning loss over the summer, and then we find ourselves in a deeper and deeper hole. So I think, you know, uh, the other thing that we might want to look at, and I know this is probably going to be extremely controversial, and that is to lengthen summer school, because right now summer school is about give or take about 30 days, and the question is it really fully meeting our students needs? So it's not a question we can answer now, but we do want to look at that in the future around how can we structure summer school. I know a large part of that is driven by staffing. I got that, but we also need to look at student needs and figure out if there's a balance between staffing and student needs to try to maximize the number of students that are benefiting.
Only one question for me. What additional supports can we provide to make our summer school experience more effective?
Well, right now, the biggest support is just us getting started earlier. Right now, I think we have all of the stakeholders at the table. What I can do though is when I schedule these meetings, I'll invite you all, and that way you could be a part of the process from the very beginning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brooks.
Thank you.
Item 6.03, public comments follow-up. I mentioned earlier today what that process looks like. Are there additional details that we need to provide on public comments and follow-up? Hearing none,
I did have a comment. The document that's submitted in board docs, when I looked at it, I think it's an interesting first draft, because what I was expecting to see when I looked at that was, number one, identify the person that had the comment. Number two, what was the issue that they had presented? And number three, what was the resolution? The document that's currently there does not, it only addresses who was the person, and the clarity on the other two issues are not there. So I would ask that some additional work be done on that report, because when I looked at it, it did not meet I was not happy with it because it didn't tell me anything.
And then Board Member Vice President Humphreys, many of the comments don't merit responses. They're just comments. Some of them do, but all of them don't ask for resolutions.
thank you for those comments. This is a process for us, and thank you, Vice President Humphrey, for challenging us and giving us an opportunity to develop it. I also made the observation that the initial comments were not actionable items. So the earlier comments were voices of we literally had, there wasn't an action item associated with many of those, but there were a few opportunities for us to develop actions related to those requests. So it has been noted, and we will follow up to improve that form. Thank you. At this point, we would like to ask Mr. Jossie to come forward with KAI and give us an update on Part V.
Good evening, Executive Board,
Good evening.
President Hodge,
Good evening, sir.
and Dr. Triplett.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Jossie Haynes. I am the construction manager, vice president of KU, and I'm providing an update. I do have my singing verse tonight, so I will try to keep this short. So I'm gonna start coughing. This particular presentation, as a reminder to everyone, is just a reminder that we have 4 projects built into 3 contracts. those 4 projects represent the full dollar amount of the scope of work that's being done under Prop V. The 20% represents, just the overall costs that were allocated, but the 7% represents what, if we look at this project from the line, a recommendation from our team to provide a 10% contingency for construction, unforeseen construction activities, and also for construction issues. So we are running under that 10% by 3%. So it's just an item of note that I wanted to make sure that was understood as we look at this particular metric on 4 different projects. When you think about the total of these 4 different projects, it's a massive project, and typically we would be using those metrics for that 10%, but we're under that. So this has been revised. You've seen this slide many times. What I've done is just a note of measure for KAI's contract amendment process, and then the contractor's change order process, which are 2 different processes as we amend the project, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the finances. But we identify the cost, we evaluate the cost, we negotiate for a better cost, and then we reach a recommended cost and then provide that to the district, which is typically at our bond meeting that's held every Thursday. And I want to thank Mr. Hodge for joining us at one of our bond meetings, and also others who have come through, like Vice President Humphrey, who's always there. And it's sometimes a lively conversation, but it's always a good process that we are going through to make sure that we're keeping our fiduciary responsibility to the district. This slide is talking about our schedule. So currently, West Hall is complete, SCA is complete, East Hall is complete, Central Hall is substantially complete. I'll go into deeper dive into that in a few minutes. And then the bus lot is to be determined, and then the SCA boardroom, CSC boardroom is expected to be completed around the 4th quarter. The secure connector, this is just another image of the completed project. Was walking with board member Pearson, just looking at this particular facility is just showing you another aspect of the facility where students are able to use a space that is designated for multi-purposes. The punch list is, we're down to 5 or less items on the punch list. This particular contract has been a challenge, but we're working through it. We're trying to pull all the stops to make this continue to get through. Nothing is impeding on any of the facilities. We're just wrapping up minor issues, and that's going pretty smoothly. Central Hall. So we've been talking about this project. This is the project that's under construction. May 31st has been the date that's been projected to complete. We're 95% complete. At the time I did this presentation, we were at 95% completion at that time. Since then, I've asked the contractor to provide a list of outstanding items, and these are the things that they've put on the list that we are tracking currently, and a lot of them have moved. The goalpost has moved, so we're tracking closer to 100%. As you are aware, we talked about the restrooms being 48 days delayed. We were able to get the contractor to move that faster, so we were able to get most of those restrooms completed. I would say probably 80% of them are completed, and we only have on the first floor where we have most of the issues where the lateral lines had to be removed and replaced and repaired because of deferred maintenance. Those items those particular pieces have moved along. I'm happy to say that the band room is also moving right along as well. As you'll see in the pictures that the top right hand corner, that is the ramp that was not poured at the time, but today it is poured and being tiled. So work is moving right along. Again, I'm not 100% excited about the fact that it's not 100% complete, but it is 95% complete. So Central Hall. So as we started to dig into the details of what was actually left, I wanted to make sure that I was clear about what was scope-related items and items that were going to be new scope. So when we're looking at what's completed on the Central Hall, we have identified things that are going to be put on a punch list. So that punch list will continue to be worked through. We'll find items that will need to be repaired, actually touched up, paint, all those different things, tile that needs to be replaced. But we wanted to have more of a substantial list of what actual work is construction related that's not complete. And we only identified one item, which is the concrete sidewalk repair. And the reason why that wasn't done during the school year because it was a space where the students needed to move through a facility, and they didn't want to do it until they were done with school. So we're doing it now in the summer-related activity. So we've identified items that will be done during the summer, and this is one of them. The others are items that have become amendments to the contracts and are new scope items. So we're going to also we've identified those items, and we're going to do them also during the summer months. The goal is to get these all completed before students return. So that's this particular slide. Here's some pictures of what it looked like, and things are moving fairly fast on the Central Hall. Within days, we got from there to this. So we're now towers in, ceiling towers in. And again, like I said, it's 95% complete. If you walk through the facility, you'll see most of the construction activity is happening in this one restroom area that, although we were able to move most of the project along, this particular area just took it just took longer to get done. So, and it's being done, and we're pushing the contractor. I had a conversation with the team today. I said it is our job to make sure that we're continually to hammer that this needs to be complete, and so that Ms. Pearson doesn't ask me when is this going to be done. So the band room, this is a picture of just where they were at the time. They're much further along than this. It's mostly cosmetics. If you look at the details, it's mostly tile and ceiling tile that needs to be put into the space, but everything else, all the bones are together. Again, these are some more shots of the space. This is just where the workers were working. You can see all of the, not all of the, what do you call it, the lockers are in. And now we move on to the Campus Support Center boardroom. I want to make a note of the fact that this process has not been done by myself. It's not me alone. Dr. Triplett has put a team together that allows us to have a voice and also have ears by the board being very involved. Thank you, Mr. Humphrey, for being involved throughout this project as I've been involved. It's made things move so much faster. So now we look at this particular project, and one of the questions that we wanted to really focus on was try to get this thing done, but also how to do it where we have the minimal amount of change orders as possible, and we are doing that process right now. This is just another rendering. This is actually an updated rendering of the concept drawing for the boardroom. Currently, we have completed demolition. We did find some asbestos in the floor tile mastic. It's the glue. Typically, that's where you'll find it in an older facility like this. I'm happy to know that was the only place where we found hazardous material, but we have identified some other spaces and other areas that need to be addressed, which would have come up as a change in scope because it wasn't identified on the drawing. So we have that identified. It's going to be added to the drawings, and when we build this back, it will all be done in a consecutive manner. Funds allocated. So originally, this the Prop V funds that were gone out were for $26 million. As the scope was started to be evaluated, the previous administration decided that they would look for other areas of funding, and that's how we got to the $44 million. That's what this slide represents. This is a slide showing what we currently have allocated or potential contract amount. If you remember, this number has not changed. We're wrapping up this particular part of the scope, so we should not see any variation in this over the next few weeks. So I am confident that this will fall either there or below this particular amount. This is the business utilization. So we are tracking 25% and of a goal and 5% of a goal. We're at 33%, and we're at 3% for women business enterprises and minority business enterprises. The project is this particular these contracts that are under contractors that are under contract right now are dwindling down. So as their services dwindle, then that number will go down as well. So, but at one point we were really close to our numbers throughout the project, which is a success in the minority community. Property savings. So as we continue to move through this project, KI, we've identified more savings. This number is at 1.6 for a very long time and holding stagnant. Now we're up to 1.8 million of savings identified. Also included in that would be over 400,000 savings by avoiding certain changes and/or amendments. Just a reminder of, and also thank you for board members who came out to review and look at the facility. I did not update the pictures, but I just wanted to capture some of this in this slide so that I'm recognizing Mr. Humphrey, Teresa Pearson, Erica Edwards for coming out, putting your eyes on the project and seeing where we were so that you can have, pictures. Well, again, Wes and Miss Taylor for coming out in the past. It's so much easier to explain things when you're looking at it. I'm sure Miss Edwards, you will say you can see, wow, this is a challenge, and or this is actually further along than I thought it was. But actually seeing it in person makes it a lot easier to explain what's going on and how we're moving through the project. This is just a reminder of our initiative as a company to as a partner with the district to continue to work with students, not only in this current project but also in the future, as Mr. Hodges asked, to make sure that we're lining up opportunities for students to get into the AEC, architectural engineering construction industry. Just a picture of the students who came by. I just look back at this picture. I know one day I'll see these students, and I remember when they sat down as a young buck, and they'll say, "I remember when you just were introduced into this particular area. Now you've made a decision to get involved into a career that's made my family very happy." Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jossie. We appreciate your presentation. Alex Belton. Questions, comments, profound thoughts?
I have no question, but I just want to say again, thank you for all of your hard work and coming here every month, making sure that we know what's going on. And good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Belton. Director Pearson.
Good evening, Jossie.
Good evening.
So one, I want to thank you for the tour. That made me feel a little better about how things were going, because you said the restrooms would be the end of June, and I think it was only one that needed to be done. So that made me feel good because he actually stood on his word. He didn't just tell me something to get me by. So I appreciate that. I really do. The only question, well, I have two questions. You stated that the bus lot is to be determined. Would that involve any options for EV buses?
So yes, and that's something that Dr. Triplett and the team is managing. Once we have more information, we'll be able to provide. That's why I say to be determined.
Okay.
I don't have anything to report at this time. There's a state funded with Ameren. So that's what's
Okay. I didn't know if it was if you all were working together with it.
working together.
Okay.
It's just it's forthcoming.
And then, as a Normandy alum, the question has been: will the alumni have a wall in the central, not the building, but we said we're not gonna call it the connector, but the central
Rotunda area.
Yeah.
okay.
Rotunda.
Rotunda area. Okay. Will there be a wall for that option?
So wall space is very challenging to well, I'll say this: what we've identified now, what we're looking at is an area. There's a space as you go into the commons, like where the students meet, and there's that little lower area. We've talked about putting in standing cases where it's almost like a museum, And you can, and that will be the alumni like museum center right at that lower area where it's not really being utilized.
It's the steps before you go into the
And to the library.
area. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
It's in that space where we're looking at possibly putting something to that effect where we can utilize that space more effectively for alumni, trophies, all those different things.
Okay. Thank you. That's all that I have today.
All right. Thank
Yes, thank you so much. Director Milton Roberts.
I don't have anything to add other than thank you very much for all your hard work. And then to have one request, I wasn't able to attend the walkthrough because I was out of town. So I'd like to take a rain check. And
Anytime. Just let me know.
all right.
I'll be there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Edwards.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I first want to say thank you so much for taking out the time. I know your schedule is busy to give us a walkthrough tour. I really enjoyed the tour. Like you said, like you mentioned, it really does make a difference when you're there to explain everything that's going on. So I appreciate you for that. I appreciate your diligence and your attention to detail with providing these reports. So I do appreciate you and all the work you've done.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up.
Secretary Taylor.
I am so thankful that this project is almost completed, and I know that you are as well. It has been a long road. You all have done a great job. We can see how the building has come together, how beautiful it is. And even people that we meet in passing, and people have said, "Oh, I've seen the high school, and it looks so nice." And so we're excited about you just getting to the end of the project, you along with all of the workers, and just like to say thank you for your hard work. Thank you for being able to answer the questions that we've had or the concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President Humphrey.
Well, Mr. Haynes, I would say thank you for all of the work that you've done because uh, I'll say during the process I've been just a tad pushy, and but at the end of the day, uh, our children deserve everything that we've done for them.
Absolutely.
And so with that being the case, I know you don't take it personal because some days I show up more pushier than others, but I appreciate where we are. I appreciate the work that's being done, and I appreciate our conversation around substantial completion.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think everything has been said. I would like to also just recognize Vice President Humphrey for leaning into this part of the work and his presence and guiding us and protecting our interests along with KAI. So thank you, Vice President Humphrey. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. At this point, I think Mr. Brooks. We'll hear from Mr. Brooks related to item 6.05, the Highland Fleet and EPA electronic bus initiatives. And I think you've also got item 6.06, year to date.
And that is true.
Financial summary, yes.
President Hodge. Good evening, Joint Executive Governing Board and Dr. Triplett and Normandy Schools community. We're going to be basically presented a presentation by Scott Harrison. He is with the Highland Fleet. He's going to be talking about the basically the bus, the e-bus agreement that we have. We've been approved for 10 initial buses by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and recently an additional 5 buses. But Mr. Harrison is going to come forward, and he's going to give you all a presentation on this great opportunity. This time, with no further ado, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. And good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hear me all right in here? First off, thank you to the board and Dr. Triplett for having me here. Sorry, I'm a little low. So my name is Scott Harrison. I'm the Regional Fleet Solutions Manager for Highland Electric Fleets. I'm here to talk about a proposed partnership between Normandy Schools Collaborative and Highland Electric Fleets tied to the 10-bus EPA Clean School Bus Award that you guys won as part of Highland's joint application. So congratulations, first off, for winning that award.
Thank you.
And another 5 that was just announced. So very exciting. I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of Highland as a company, what we do, kind of where we are, talk about the award in a little more detail, and then outline just some of the broader points of our proposal. So we were founded in 2019 in Beverly, Massachusetts. Currently, we have about 300, or about we're active in about 30 states, and we have close to 600 buses under contract. Our largest project is in Montgomery County, Maryland, and that's actually the largest EV deployment in the country. We have almost 230 buses on the road with them. We're contracted for 326. To date, we've secured close to $350 million in grants and incentives for our district partners across the country. Oh, this is just something's going on with my slide, but I think you guys get the gist. This is just a quick visual representation of where our projects are right now. You can see we have a cluster in the east. That's largely due to the fact that we were founded there, but we're pretty well spread out across the country at this point. My focus is the Midwest. We don't yet have a project in Missouri, but we're really excited to potentially have one. So, another fun fact, this is a little out of date, but we just hit our 2 million miles driven mark in our EV buses. This says 1.8, but we're ticking those miles up every day. So Highland's core business is electrification as a service. So in addition to that, we do a lot of free grant writing for districts. And so that's what we did on your behalf. You're part of our EPA Region 7 joint application, but our core business is this electrification as a service. And what that means is we bundle all the aspects of fleet electrification. So the depot build out is a pretty significant infrastructure project, procurement of the buses and chargers themselves, training for staff and drivers, electricity for the lifetime of the contract, charge management, maintenance and repair on the vehicles themselves. And we bundle that into one contract and eliminate all the upfront expense for the district. So our partnership really is meant to solve the complexity around fleet electrification, so around both the depot build and the ongoing operation of the electric fleet, so that the district can focus on the most important piece and what you guys do best, which is transporting students safely to and from school. So just a few benefits of our contract. So it's a performance-based contract. These are long-term contracts, 10 to 15 years, that involve no upfront capital for the district. So it's just the contract that you pay per bus per year for our services. So what that does is it gives you a predictable budget for those buses that are under contract. And that includes all the design, the implementation, and ongoing operation. So basically everything except for the driver of the bus. And then we also take a lot of pride in our ongoing dedicated support team that goes into these projects. These are long-term partnerships. We don't just build these and walk away. We're there with you for the length of the contract, working on anything that comes up around training, problems with the buses, problem with the chargers. That's on us to resolve those issues for you in an expedient manner. And we're contracted in our contract spelled out that is one of our missions. So getting into some of the background on the EPA program quickly. So for those of you who don't know all the details, EPA Clean School Bus Program is a federal grant program and rebate program that's been rolled out in a few stages. Last summer was the EPA Round 2 grant program. So it was a pretty labor-intensive federal grant. Highland applied 4 districts as a coalition across the country. So you guys are in EPA Region 7. So these districts on here were the districts that were part of our Region 7 coalition. And we feel really fortunate to have won 70 electric buses for these districts. You can see it's a good mix of bigger districts, smaller districts, rural districts, and the EPA really likes to see that we were supporting all those different types of school districts, which I think really contributed to us being successful. Normandy's allocation is for 10 school buses and approximately $305,000 per school bus. So that money basically goes to offset the upfront cost of the school bus. This is a little bit of what I just said, but basically that money can go to the charger or the bus. In this case, your money will probably go all to the bus. That 305 won't cover the full cost of the school bus. In an EV school bus, they are more expensive than that. So there will be a cost delta there, but Highland's contract covers all the upfront, so you wouldn't actually see any of that in year one. And then jumping into our proposal. So what's included? So the bus itself, The chargers, the infrastructure, us planning, designing, site installation, managing that project, all the engineering, charge management software for the length of the contract, electricity for the length of the contract. So you never see an electricity bill. That's baked into what we're providing. Working with Amarin is something we do. It sounds like we might be doing that in partnership. We probably should have had that conversation beforehand, but we've talked to them already, verified site capacity, and done a fair amount of diligence ahead of this presentation. And then one of the biggest pieces, vehicle maintenance and reimbursement. So these are technically Highlands buses serving you. And so we pay for all of the maintenance and repair. So that's regular scheduled maintenance to make sure you meet inspection, as well as major maintenance and repair that would happen throughout the life of a bus. Which provides a lot of risk management for districts. So we see these assets as being able to be used for a pretty long time, especially in your climate here. So basically, we're providing an extended warranty for the full life of our contract. So where maybe in year 10, you wouldn't be covered under contract if you had a battery go out, that's a $100,000 component that's on Highland to provide you should that happen. So it's a lot of risk mitigation. This is our proposed depot design, what we've kind of built the project around right now. You can see it has 10 buses there with 10 DC fast chargers. It's a 1-to-1 arrangement. So what that means is there's one charger for each bus. Some depots look at 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1. And it is a DC fast charger design. So it's a more premium unit versus a level 2 design. Like I said, we manage all of the interaction with Amarin to bring the new service in, and this would require a new dedicated service just to support these buses, and potentially 5 more in the future as well. So this is the pricing for our contract. So $24,000 per year per bus basically includes everything we just talked about. That's a contract over 15 years, 70 miles a day. And kind of one of the key components of that I want to touch on, the EPA requires that a bus be scrapped for each bus that we're putting on the road and funding with partial EPA money. You guys lease all of your buses right now, so you don't actually have any buses to scrap. Highland has already sourced buses that are qualified through the EPA in the state of Missouri that have operated the correct number of hours and baked that into this contract. So we are scrapping those buses for you on your behalf to deploy this project. This price probably doesn't mean a ton without some context on what you guys are paying right now. And you guys are the ultimate experts on your diesel costs, but through our modeling and looking at average cost and then lease cost, we think you're saving approximately $100,000 a bus over the lifetime of this contract, which is pretty substantial savings, more savings than I'm usually able to show districts. So we were really happy about that. That's honestly the bulk of what I had to present to you guys tonight. I wanted to kind of move through that pretty quickly because I figured there might be some questions that I'd love to address. So thank you very much for your time and be happy to take questions.
Thank you so much. Director Belton.
I have no questions at this time, but thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Director Pearson.
Good evening. My first question is, will the drivers need a special type of endorsement to drive these buses?
They do not need a special type of endorsement. So the same drivers that are driving your current Type C buses would be able to drive these buses.
Okay. And I believe that's the only question that I had because you answered everything else. Thank you.
They do have to have a special endorsement to drive school buses.
Yes,
though.
to drive,
the
but I'm
same as
saying to
that.
drive an EV bus, is there a special type of endorsement?
Thank you, Director Pearson. Director Milton Roberts.
Kind of following up to that question. So since there's no special licensing or anything like that, they can then be shifted between electric buses and the other buses without any dilemma.
They can, yes. And our experience is that drivers really love driving these buses. They're super quiet. They're just a much better driving experience for both the driver and the students. So oftentimes drivers are kind of vying to be able to drive the EV buses in the fleet.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Director Edwards.
I have 2 questions. My first question is, what would be your major challenge into incorporating this system into our school district?
Yeah, the biggest challenge we usually see is making sure there's the necessary electrical capacity on site to support a deployment of this size, because it is quite a big service we're planning to put in. I've talked with the folks at Amarin, Missouri, and they're pretty supportive of the project and don't feel like there would be any major concerns there. And then generally, it's just getting the depot ready for the deployment. So there is some work that we need to do there as well to get ready for the infrastructure install.
And I actually have two more. What is the typical time frame that the buses will be able to be operated after they are implemented into our program? Like, how long does that generally take?
In terms of how far they can operate every day, or
No, not how far they can operate every day. Once the electricity, like how long does it take to put in the electricity,
gotcha.
charge the
Yeah.
bus, and then
Yeah, so the
operate
project
buses?
implementation timeline
Mhm.
essentially. So the EPA is actually stipulating this project has to be completed 2 years from the award date.
Okay.
So that was or 2 years from the contract. I think it's award date. I'm pretty sure. So that would have been like 2 years from like April of this year.
Okay.
We're targeting, if we enter into this partnership, we would be targeting to have the depot built and installed by basically next summer. So we would hope that it would be operational before the start of next school year. Not this coming school year after that. However, we have to still work out some details around repaving the lot, which could extend the timeline slightly. But I think we'd be pretty comfortable. I'd be pretty comfortable saying that we should be able to get it done before the end of 2025. And my hope would be before the end of next summer. Some of the biggest lead time items are like the transformer itself. Sometimes utilities have a hard time getting those things, so we try to order them well in advance. And then the school buses themselves have about a year lead time to be built. And there are a lot of EV school bus orders going in right now because of this program. So the sooner we can basically place those POs, the sooner we'll be able to deploy the project.
Okay. And then my last question would be, in the event of an accident that happens with these buses, how soon will the replacement happen? Will it have to be, offline to go back to a diesel bus? How would that process take place?
Yeah, that's a great question. So um, if a bus was to be damaged in an accident, so say it drove into a light pole or something like that, or it was hit by another car, depending on if it needs to be fully replaced or not, that would determine that timeline. If a whole new bus needs to be built and there are no buses available to purchase immediately, you could be looking at a similar lead time of 8 to 12 months to build that new bus. Um, Hopefully, the damage would be such that we could repair that bus and get it back on the road. During the meantime, a diesel bus, a spare diesel bus from your fleet would have to service that route.
Okay.
Secretary Taylor.
Thank you for the presentation. What is the capacity for the buses?
It's the same as a regular Type C diesel school bus, and we've basically used your bus specification to build these school buses. So they're built to your specification.
No disrespect. I've been out of school for such a long time.
Oh, I think it's 77 passengers.
77 passengers. Okay. And also Director Edwards, she did ask the question because I had written down, would there be any problems with downtown if one of the buses were to be, like you say, in an accident or any electrical problems? You say it would take about 8 to 12 months.
Well, that would just be if a bus was like totaled in an
Okay.
accident and we had to totally purchase a whole new bus. So if it's an accident, it's really assessing what that damage is. If it's a charger issue, that's really on Highland to resolve that as quickly as we can. And we're actually contractually obligated to do that in a timely manner. And so we do have a performance-based contract. So if we mismanage the charging, so the charge management essentially, we actually are going to pay you to operate one of your diesel buses while that bus is down. But we're not going to pay you those downtime damages if your driver drives it into a pole or it gets hit by another car or something like that.
Okay, and one last question. Has there been any reports you said somewhere on the East Coast, I believe you said that Maryland
In Maryland, yeah.
is one of the larger areas. Has there been an issue where the electrical grid, I guess the charging station, has there ever been a problem where the buses have not been able to be charged or operated?
We have not had any problems where the grid has not been able to support the charging we're trying to do because we're very diligent in making sure that the necessary capacity exists on site. before we install these services. So we would never put a project in a place where we thought that the grid wasn't going to be able to handle that. And really, the utilities probably wouldn't let us do that either. Certainly, there are problems that happen with charging and the buses themselves. And just like there are problems with diesel buses, and Highland's really obligated. And that's really where we come in as a partner to resolve those issues as quickly as we can.
And I have one other question. Is there, are the buses connected to any type of a source? I guess what I'm trying to say is where they're able to uh, be able to look into that bus and see what's going on, say for any reason, like a tracking system, I
Yeah,
guess that's what I'm
certainly. So we have our own proprietary, we call it charge management software, but really
saying.
what it does is it tracks the charging of the bus. So you know when that bus is plugged in, not plugged in. You know if it's charging when it's plugged in or if it's not charging when it's plugged in. And then also it basically tracks the bus in its route. So you know where it is on its route, you know how much charge it has when it's out on its route, and you know basically how far it can go, and how many miles it's going to take to get back to the depot.
Okay, thank you.
Vice President Humphrey.
Well, one of the things, if I understood you correctly, you said that it was a federal grant and that the buses would be made available for our use, up to 15 buses. I also heard you say, if I understood you correctly, you indicated that the buses belong to Highland. Did I understand you to say that?
Yes. So
Okay.
Highland. Oh, excuse me.
And so I guess with that being the case, who actually provides insurance for the vehicles?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So you would provide insurance for the vehicle, and Highland also provides insurance for the vehicle. So essentially, your insurance would only cover the bus when it was being operated by one of your drivers. The rest of the time, Highland's insurance is covering that bus. So we can go back to the example of if your driver drove this bus into something, that would be on your insurance. If this bus was on the lot and your driver wasn't there and something happened to it, that's Highland's insurance responsibility to cover that.
Okay, and when we have a situation where we have joint liability, what's the coverage level that will be on that bus?
I can get you those specific numbers from the contract that I sent over. I do not know them off the top of my head, though.
Okay, and then I think the other thing you talked about in year one, a lot of the costs would be neutral to the district, but when you go to year two and going on, are there any residual costs to the district that we need to be aware of?
No, so essentially, the cost to start up this project is pretty significant. So probably like from a bus deployment standpoint, anyway. So probably $1 million, $1.5 million, something like that, in that range to do the infrastructure project. Highland covers all that upfront capital. You just pay that $24,000 price per bus every year that escalates at 3%. There are no other costs associated with it. There are some stipulations in the contract around towing and things like that, but I would encourage you to read through those, and they're all spelled out quite clearly. So,
And I guess the final question, when you look at $24,000 a year, what's the basic life cycle of an electric bus? How often are they rotated out?
yeah, so Highland is taking the risk here. We are saying that this bus is going to be operational for the 15 years of the contract, and we're contractually obligated to provide you that bus. So if for some reason that bus has to come off the road in year 12 because it's not performing and meeting your routes, it's on us to actually provide you a bus that is going to meet those routes. So we're very confident we can run a bus here for 15 years. And so I would say 15 plus years.
Okay, my final question, with a lot of the school buses that we currently have in place, we actually have security cameras on those buses. Will these buses be equipped in the same way?
They will, yes. So I worked with Mr. Brooks to get your bus specifications, and we priced those in to the contract. So they do have cameras on them. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for the presentation. I have a question about maintenance and training. Can you talk to us a little bit about the maintenance plan for who will do the maintenance How is that training done? In particular, the charging stations. We know that the most vulnerable aspect of all electrification are the training, the electrification, those recharging stations. We have a preference for using local talent and using the resources inside of our community. There's a huge initiative here in St. Louis to certify individuals to maintenance those charging stations. Can you talk to us a little bit about the plan there?
Yeah, certainly. So Highland has a pretty robust training plan around both the buses and the chargers. So that goes for your bus drivers, your bus mechanics, and then generally Highland, we're responsible for the charging stations. So we will train your mechanics to troubleshoot those, and oftentimes we will subcontract work to local charger certified providers to do work if need be. In some circumstances where deployments are big enough, we actually hire local technicians to be Highland staff to work specifically for certain district deployments. The Montgomery County one is an example. We have local technicians that are dedicated just to that project. And then around the actual how the maintenance and repair works on the buses. So we utilize your mechanics essentially, or whoever you hire to be your mechanic, and we reimburse you for that parts and that labor, both for regular scheduled maintenance and repair and then, unforeseen issues essentially.
That's great. Thank you so much. That is really good to hear. I'm hoping that we can formalize that commitment to hiring and training local talent to service those buses and those charging stations.
Certainly, I think we'd be more than willing to explore that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Good.
Doing that. Excellent.
Dr. Brooks, item 6.06, year-to-date financial summary.
Okay, good evening again, board. We're going to let Dan the man get us set up here.
Good evening.
We appreciate Mr. Harrison giving us that presentation. And we do want to advise you, the board, that we are looking at this, but we do have a fleet again of diesel buses that will be working in tandem with this arrangement as we look forward to moving perhaps forward. So we're going to synchronize that process so that it's perfect for our students and for the district. At this time, I want to take a few minutes to present our financial position as a district through April 30th, the month ended. And just basically to point out a few things, the district is in a strong financial position currently. We have roughly about $23.8 million in savings, or roughly an overall 35.35% overall fund reserve, again through April 30th. Year to date, our revenues stand at $40,375,000. That's up roughly $1.7 million over the prior month. And so we're tracking well. I've identified some of the major areas where we had revenue year to date coming in. For the month of April, we had current and delinquent tax collections that made up about $363,000. We had Prop C income of about $321,000. We had a state assessed utility tax revenue of about $409,000. And wanted to point out that in the month of May, we have a huge influx of revenues coming in, roughly a little bit over $13 million that will be reflected in the next month's report. Overall expenditures are coming in. We're finished at $54 million through April 30th, and so that's up slightly, about $1.9 million, just under $2 million over the prior month. But of course, that's largely in compensation, salary, and benefit packages to employees. Our total fund reserves in our operating accounts, again, that being our general account and our teachers' special revenue funds, totaled $13.5 million through April 30th, up slightly over the prior month, and that represents about a 26.45% operating fund reserve or balance year to date. Again, that's very strong. Exceeds substantially the 3% minimum requirement that the state requires. So that, moving on, as I've mentioned, you see that we had an ending fund reserve of roughly $37.9 million as of June 30th, 2023. We've had revenues again coming in of $40.3 million year to date through April. We have had expenditures of $54 million through April 30th, which brings us to our ending fund reserve again of $23.779 million. And again, as I had mentioned, that's an overall fund reserve of 35.35%, with the operating fund reserve or fund balance coming in at 26.45%. A couple of things I wanted to mention. We are still working through our budgeting process. I think Ms. Rigsby is going to be communicating with you further and working with Dr. Triplett and all of our budget administrators. We're working through the budgeting process, and we are going to be planning to bring you the budget for the upcoming fiscal year, 24-25. We'd like to bring you back as a board or connect with you, a quorum at least, in a couple of weeks, which would be 2 weeks from today would be roughly the 25th. But we are working on that. We're finishing up the staffing, again, working with Dr. Triplett and the rest of our budget administrators. We've met with all of our budget administrators and looking at the non-staffing related expenditures around supplies, purchase services, equipment, etc. And so we want to bring forth a solid budget package to you in a couple of weeks for your consideration and subsequent adoption. We've been working through the process, all of this for the last few months. And again, this is going to culminate in this budget document that we're going to be presenting to you in a couple of weeks. And at this time, I just want to ask you if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Director Belton.
No questions, but thank you for your presentation.
Director Pearson.
No questions. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Director Milton Roberts.
No questions, but I do want to say thank you very much for your attention to detail and your care. It's very evident that you go through this with a fine-tooth comb, and that's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Director Edwards.
No questions at this time.
Thank you, Secretary Taylor.
No questions. Thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you, Vice President Humphrey.
Well, the only comment I had was I know that probably a while back there was some conversation about the TIF that was being dissolved, and just kind of get an update where we are in that process, because my understanding with that TIF being dissolved, at some point we should be receiving somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000. So it would be good to kind of know where we are in that process.
Yes, Director Humphrey, Vice President Humphrey, thank you for that question. We've received about $352,000 of that money so far. We're waiting for clarity. We're supposed to be receiving the balance, that additional $500,000 over the course of this year. But we actually have received just last month about $352,000 of that amount.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. I don't have any questions, but I would like for you to entertain a question for our board. One of the things that I think is really important is that our board members have good financial education as a part of their responsibilities on this board. And we have a newly elected board, a fairly young board. We have training and education coming up with the MSBA, Missouri School Board Association, where there's a variety of different opportunities for us to gain education and insight. What recommendations would you give our board that don't necessarily have a finance background in helping them to understand school finance?
It's a great question, President Harch. I would recommend that you, the board members, if you are able to attend the this MSBA conference, that you attend any sessions that might be available around school finance. I think that's a very important segment to look at. Also, construction, and you all actually have had a lot of exposure with Prop V, but that would also be another undertaking I would recommend. And thirdly, I would recommend that you attend any anything that's presented by an attorney group that is looking at school-related issues. So those would be the three areas that I would recommend you take advantage of if you have the opportunity at this conference.
Great. Thank you so much for your presentation.
You're welcome, sir.
At this point, we will move on to item 7, items for discussion and action. We have a presentation on iReady, item 7.01.
Good evening, board members, our superintendent, Dr. Triplett. My name is Anthony Taylor. I'm the coordinator for data assessment and professional development for the district. It gives me great pleasure to talk to you this evening about iReady being implemented at the high school level for the upcoming school year. There are four essential questions that I want you to be thinking about as I present. And I'm going to borrow the word from Dr. Rich DeFore, our late Richard DeFore, who's the author and pioneer of professional learning communities, or PLCs. The first question is, what do we want students to learn? What do we want them to be able to know and be able to do? And that would be the standards. The second question is, how do we know they learned it? That would be the assessments, the tests, the assessments that they're given. What do we do when students don't get it? That would be the intervention. That would be the strategies teachers use to get kids on level. And then the fourth question that I want you to be thinking about throughout the presentation is, what do we do for those students who get it already? How do we stretch their learning, and how do we give them enrichment to get there? I believe iReady does that for us. I believe iReady gives us the tools and the necessary tools that we need. We already have it, as you know, in elementary grades and middle school grades. We can have it in the high school. And that's what I want to focus on today. One of the first things that you should know about iReady is that it's a comprehensive diagnostic tool. It gives us information about how our kids are performing in reading and mathematics. It drills all the way down to the learning standards. It drills right back down to the Missouri learning standards that we are familiar with in ELA and reading. And so that's really, and math, that's really important. It also gives us additional information about how do we support as children when they don't get it. How do we put strategies and targeted interventions in place when they just don't get it? And then the other thing that I want you to be thinking about, as this is a comprehensive diagnostic tool, school districts around the country, particularly Missouri, are using iReady in their schools. And iReady is the only Missouri approved diagnostic benchmark that's used in the state of Missouri. It's the only one that's been approved. And so those are really good comprehensive diagnostic information that you should know about. The other piece that's really important is that iReady is criteria reference. And what that means is teachers teach it based off the pacing guides that our department gives them that are based off the standards. iReady is going to test them on those standards. So there's this tight connection between what's being taught and what's actually being tested. That's really important. And again, it ties right back to the Missouri Learning Standards. The other piece that you should know about is that iReady is nationally normed. That means cohort of students at the same grade level. It shows how our kids are performing against kids in their same grade levels and in their same years in school. So it's nationally normed. That's really important information as well. Here's an example of one of the reports, the many reports that we'll look at when we do iReady. It's really important, as I heard earlier, of folks making comments about our kids being 3 grade levels, 2 grade levels, 1 grade level below. iReady gives us that diagnostic information. So students walking in, taking this diagnostic, the first benchmark in the beginning of the year, we can tell early on that there are 1, 2 levels below, or 3 grade levels below, or more. That's really important. And it also drills down to the domains. The domains are related to the Missouri Learning Standards, as you know. We can tell what areas in mathematics our kids are struggling in. We can tell what areas in reading and ELA that they're struggling in. It gives us that pinpoint information. Teachers don't have to guess. It's right there in front of them. This report here, this is an extended of that report. And what you see up there now says grades 1 through 8. But we'll have that same information for 9th through 12th. And so we're going to tell in 9th grade what content areas are students struggling in. We'll be able to tell in 12th grade what content areas in mathematics and reading that they're struggling with. Guessing game is gone. To improve student outcomes, it's important to understand here that teachers won't have to guess. They'll know exactly where the learning gaps are for every student in their classroom. taking the guess game away. The other piece is important. Teachers will be able to give students support throughout their journey, and they'll be able to monitor them and give them feedback on how they're progressing on any skill levels that they're taking in each of these areas. That's really important. Continue consistent progress monitoring and tracking progress. Our progress, the way that we progress monitor kids now, it stops at 8th grade, right? But we want that to continue. So there's this continuity between middle school and high school. So a high school student, a teacher can call up an 8th grade teacher and say, you know what, Anthony's in my class. What was it he worked on? What areas that he needs to work on? Well, our database gives them that information to be there, but it also helps us with conversation. So there's this continuity between 12th grade all the way up, I'm sorry, kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. So there's a continuity piece there. And that's going to last throughout the journey of our students. Just imagine if it's 5th graders in our district, when it goes to 12th grade, we have archived data that's available to us through through iReady that will tell that educational story of that student. That's good information to have. Enhanced instructional strategies. During the PLC, or the professional learning community data team process, teachers are working on instructional issues that kids have. Again, the guessing game is gone because as teachers can pull this report, the principals can pull this report, I can pull this report, and it's a conversation about what is needed for Anthony to be successful in that classroom. That's really important. That's going to guarantee more success for our students if we have that kind of data in front of us. The other piece that's important too, we talk about articulating vertical articulation. All this means is that teachers from one level to the next grade level can talk about instructional strategies and talk about standards that kids are getting. I really just want to provide this for us because we have reports in front of us that tells us about the journey that kids need to make in order to be successful. That's certainly important. And again, we talked about the history. It's a comprehensive history of our kids' development in ELA and math. Professional development. We're really important. This is a really important piece here. iReady currently stands shoulder by shoulder with us with our K through 8 initiatives with iReady. They're standing ready to do the same thing for 9th through 12. We'll have in-depth professional developments, teaching teachers how to look at reports, looking at data analysis, looking at instructional strategies, how to use all the interfacings that are involved or available to us in iReady. So the professional development is really a good, important piece to have. And that is going to enhance the work that we do, not just in one grade level, but think about this. We'll be able to enhance that professional development from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. So that's iReady. And remember, what we want students to know and be able to do, the standards are there. It's in iReady. How do we know they got it? The assessments are there. We get that benchmark 3 times a year. What are we doing now getting interventions? Teachers are working together to help them put together strategies that are going to help kids improve their performance. And what do we do for kids that don't get it? And then what do we do when kids have it? We have stretch goals, we have typical goals to help them get there. So I think it was a valuable tool. And as you deliberate, I would ask you to consider passing the funding along so that we can get our rate in high school.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor, for this presentation. We are advocates for iReady and the services it provides, and thank you for that presentation. You would like for us to entertain a motion this evening to approve the expenditures associated with expanding this to the high school. The community may not have those costs associated with it. Is that something you would to present tonight? But it is available in board docs. The board has reviewed those expenditures.
I don't have it at my fingertips right here with me, so then I will refer back to you as looking at that information.
Thank you so much. What I will do is I will entertain a motion to approve this expense and then followed by discussion. All right. So we will entertain a motion to approve the expenditures as presented by Dr. Taylor for expanding iReady to the high school, 9 through 12.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Are there questions at this time? Director Belton.
Okay, so I have two questions. One, so with already being at the high school, will there be no more momentum diagnostic tests?
Good question, and thank you. This will replace the benchmarks that we do currently with Admentum. So yes, we'll no longer use Admentum for that part, but we will use Admentum for the coursework part, which is credit recovery.
And then about the learning gaps. So when you see the learning gaps in already, will it, give like tips and examples to help that specific student not opposed to, but like extra backup help for the teacher assistants and all of that?
Yes, already has an instructional toolkit. And it has they have lessons that are adaptive to that student's needs, so that if their assessments or their scoring real high is going to get them to the level where they need to be. If they're scoring low, there's going to be intervention strategies there for them. So it's like a contextual fit for a student in the classroom.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Belton. Director Pearson.
Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Taylor. My question is, with it being implemented with the high school, what is the price point difference between the K through 8 and the K through 12 now?
The price difference.
Yes.
I don't have those figures in front of me, but I do know that I just got the information about what it's going to cost for the entire year. It's going to be right at $193,128. I don't have the price differences in front of me, but I can get that information for you.
Okay. My next question is, did for the high school, did you all go to any other type of resources? Say IXL possibly for the high school, or is that not a high school benchmark?
We looked at, of course, we had Admentum, and we know that already is sanctioned or supported by the state. It's a state initiative piece for success, student success, the student success network that we're part of. The great thing about already here is that it's going to align all of our Missouri learning standards, and we have the criteria reference pieces there. So it's a perfect tool. When you start talking to people like, in Rittner, Hazelwood, St. Charles County, all these other districts, they're all moving toward that same diagnostic piece that already provides.
Okay, so other resources weren't looked into like IXL or anything.
No, we didn't look into those.
And then is there possible that we can get the data that was presented to us, the chart, because that's the only thing that we didn't see was the chart for already?
Yeah, I do apologize for that, and I will get you a bigger version of that so that you can look at it.
Okay.
In fact, I get you a comprehensive look at all our reports if you'd like to look at that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Milton Roberts.
I have a couple questions just because I'm kind of new to the iReady world. Okay, so I guess the first question that I would like to understand is with this new program, how does it connect to students, for instance, who may have an IEP or they have a neurodivergent way of learning? How does it help you to identify those things? And then the second part of that question is, are we also educating the students so the students can learn to advocate for themselves?
Good question, and both of your questions are good questions. So yes, there is iReady is adaptive, which means that when kids answer questions, if they get it right, they get a more complex question. If they don't answer that question correctly, it's going to go down a level, and so it's going to meet the student. That's the beauty of it. It's going to meet those students exactly where they are and make that plan successful for it. In the meantime, teachers have the data that they can tell, if Anthony's in the fifth grade, if he's scoring at a third grade level, then that's where that intervention comes in place, where they're going to have small groups instruction for them. In terms of advocating for themselves, yes, teachers and students will sit down once those reports are generated, and they're going to set goals. Those goals are reciprocal. The teacher has a responsibility in that, and the student also has a right to advocate for themselves in terms of setting some goals for themselves. So yes, ma'am.
Okay, I guess along that same line, I guess what I would also ask is prior to them going through this assessment process, are we introducing the students and the parents to this particular program so that it's not after the fact that we're instructing them, oh, well, this is what we assessed you on and this is what you need to work on, but rather, here's what this tool is, here's how this tool works, families, here's how this tool works, so that we can get buy-in to the kids even being here to take the assessments.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point. And the answer to that is yes. Under the direction of Dr. McConnell, our team is going to put together, working along with the high school, an implementation plan. And one of the pieces that are going to be in there, obviously, is communicating with parents and community stakeholders to let them know that this new diagnostic tool is available.
Okay.
So yes, ma'am.
And then how does this connect also with the work we're doing with Solution Tree? So you're giving teachers a tool where they're going to see, this student needs X, Y, and Z, and Solution Tree is working with the teachers to teach to better support them in how they're teaching material. But where are there connecting threads somewhere in there?
Yes, ma'am. There's this collaborative effort, continued collaborative effort. We certainly saw it already with our elementary schools and middle schools working along with our solution partners. Now that's going to continue as they go up to the high school. And during the data team process, where our solution tree partners are part of that work, and with the teachers, there's going to be a collaborative effort to look at reports like we talked about and study those reports to see where the gaps are for kids, and then putting together an instructional plan so that those kids start learning more of the educational pieces.
Okay. And where do all the specialists fall into this? The math specialists, the reading specialists, and so forth, are they also being trained, being held accountable, and so forth for this new tool, as well as being trained and held accountable with Solution Tree so that all these pieces are melding together?
Yep. Part of my role and my team members' role, we'll get everybody in the room that needs to be involved with this process. We're scheduling our PDs, and we'll make sure the audiences are the people that are going to be involved in this work. And they'll be required to do that. They'll be required to be in that room learning this information. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Director Milton Roberts. Director Edwards.
Good evening. So my question would be, obviously this has been in place since kindergarten to eighth grade, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So what challenges do you see coming forth implementing this into high school, knowing that they transition from class to class? What challenges would you believe you may have, and what solution you think you can provide to help solve those issues?
That's a good question. And we're going to be working very closely with the high school staff and with the principal, Mr. Naves, and his team. One of the things that we're going to put in place is we're going to treat iReady just like we do in the elementary and the middle schools as a standardized test. This is an important assessment we need, and our superintendents will work on this. We want every kid in that building tested. We'll put together schedules. We're going to assign kids to classrooms with teachers, so those teachers are responsible for making sure those kids are tested. And so it's going to be that kind of tight fit for like we have in the elementary and middle school settings. So yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Secretary Taylor.
Just one question. You had mentioned that the program, the way that it's designed, is that the staff would be able to reach out to the other teachers who have trained that, where the students have come up through them.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that it would be too much of a burden on the teachers to have to go out and reach out, in addition to all the other work that they have to do?
Well, actually, I don't see it as a burden. I see it as a really great opportunity because right now, it's kind of broken off at the middle school level in terms of the high school. It'd be really nice, and some of the learning that we want to be able to do, that vertical articulation that I mentioned. The teachers are talking as grade spans. We would love to have an opportunity like that because it gives us a broader scope of what our kids are able to do, know and be able to do. And so we're going to be welcoming those kind of challenges. And now we have a tool to do that. Currently, we don't have an opportunity. High school can't really talk to middle school, not around the same sort of diagnostic reports that are in front of them. But now, if you guys approve this, we'll have an opportunity to have conversations with our PDs that are vertically aligned.
And so my second question would be, would those conversations be held during normal working hours, or would they have to do that, say, evenings, weekends, holidays? When would it take place?
For most of our teachers, but for sure, we have planned sessions throughout the year. We have like 6 or 7 of them where it's district led or district led. And those are the times once these reports become available that we push these reports out to principals and saying, here's a good topic to have in your next PD.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Humphrey.
I guess my first observation is, when we think about already at the K-8 level, student attendance and availability to take the test in some instances impacted what that snapshot or picture looks like.
Right.
When we get to the high school, I know when we look at the 90-90 numbers, they're less than the elementary school. And to me, one of the critical things is being able to get kids to school to be able to do the assessment. And it's got to be to the point that we're relentless that every student at the high school must be tested, whether or not they're there on testing day or they don't show up till a week later, whenever they show up. When we look at reports, we need to be able to know that every student at the high school, every student at the elementary level has in fact been tested, because the assessment in and of itself will not give you the traction that you want if everybody's not tested. So we're hopeful that, now you mentioned the testing cycle. Was it April? What are the months the testing is done already?
We do one at the beginning of the year in August, we do one in November, and then we'll do another one in April. So 3 benchmarks.
So it would be really interesting to see the data from August for the high school, because I'm really interested to see what our attendance looked like relative to, what we were able to test. The other question I had was around, you talked about the fact that this test is nationally normed and it's along with the standards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do we have any data that shows the effective correlation between iReady and MAP scores? Is there any data that we have that shows that we have good alignment around that particular assessment?
Yes, sir, we do. We have, our team provides for us a projected MAP assessment piece. In other words, what they can do is they can determine my kids are scoring on the standards on that assessment. They can make a prediction to say this is what the kid will score by the current state of their ability right now. This student will score, for example, on proficient level, or this student will score at basic or below basic. We have that information. And once we have that information, it's going to be key for our teachers and for our principals and for our department to work along with kids to make sure that they are getting the right intervention so they can move along. So yes, we have the data. And back to your other question about levels not determined or kids not tested, Dr. Triplett is really big on making sure every kid in the building is tested. And so that's going to be my charge and the charge of our department to ensure that every student is tested. You're right, if we have a spotty data set, it doesn't give us the right kind of data we want. But I think with the strategies that we put in place, I mentioned before, we're going to assign kids to high school students. The teachers to high school, a group of students, and they're going to be responsible for getting those kids tested. Whether they come on Tuesday or next Friday, they'll be tested. We have the ability to keep that window open as long as we need to get the results that we want.
And I think, just as a follow-up, I think it would be helpful, and I'm sure the board would appreciate at some point being able to see data around elementary, middle, and high school iReady versus MAP, so we can actually see the data, see the correlation, so that we'll have more comfort around the fact that it's doing the. I don't question that it assesses what it does, but what I want to make sure of is that we have good alignment between that assessment tool and the high stakes test from the MAP. So at some point, if we can get a look at broad data around those three groups in terms of how iReady compares to MAP performance, I think that would be helpful to that conversation.
Yeah, Dr. Triplett gives me a little charge. I'd be glad to get that to you.
And Mr. Humphrey, iReady has a 3 to 5% predictability of how our students will perform on a MAP assessment. So it's really close to iReady's assessment, benchmark assessment, really predicts closely how students will perform on a MAP assessment.
And with that being the case, I just say give us a couple of examples so we can kind of see what that looks like.
Yeah.
As you can see, Dr. Taylor, there's a lot of interest in testing and testing results and the implementation of this. I have a question. Much um, uh, about testing and even our efforts in the district is often thwarted by the mobility of our families. And so we may be testing students in the kindergarten and third grade that never make it to the sixth, seventh, eighth grade. And so as different districts are implementing iReady, especially at the high school level, can you help us understand, are we able to share information so students that leave our district or that come to our district, say from a Riverview Gardens or Ferguson Florissant, can we share their information? So if we get a student in the 10th grade, second semester, we will be able to access their iReady data.
I'm not sure about that question, but I do know this, that, when students come to us, we do a request for records, right? It is up to the incumbent of the school to share what they want to share with us. We really don't have controls over those pieces, but that'd be something that we can explore. I know with confidentiality and all those other pieces, there probably will be some limitations, but we'll try to get as much information as we can on students. But what's really important for us is that once that student hits our door, that we in fact give them our assessment so that we can make a determination for ourselves how those kids are faring. Well, we do get the preliminary stuff from the other districts. We do requests for records, and it's really under the control of the school district that's giving us that data and what they want to share with us.
Do parents own that data also?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah, they can always request. Parents can always request, and they can do a better job than we can in getting it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Wonderful presentation. I assume that you're also going to present on Read 180. Is that true?
No, sir. Ms. Kingsman, I didn't. So someone, one of the board members asked a question about the difference between the price. There's a $30,000 increase from our standard price that we pay for just K through 8. So tack on $30,000 more than what we were paying before.
Great. At this time, we will need to vote on the motion as there are other questions. Yes.
I'm sorry, this just came to me. I do apologize. So are iReady scores used to place the high school students in certain classes? And also, will the iReady assessments interfere with or help with ACT and SAT scores?
To answer your second question first, yes, we believe that because it gives giving our kids extra practice, extra exposure to standards, so they're going to do better. The first part of your question, tell me your first part of your first question again.
Will the iReady assessments be available to place students in certain classes?
Yeah, currently we don't use iReady for that purpose. That's not how we use it. The track how laid it out in terms of what we use it for, to the interventions and pieces like that. We find that more valuable, but we don't do it for placement. No, ma'am.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. The superintendent.
I'm sorry. Get on to that same one.
Mm-hmm.
So, is this assessment not validated for use for placement? Because a question I would have is, we are saying that teachers have a difficult time doing differentiation. So if you have a wide spread of students within a classroom, that makes it even trickier. Whereby if you have kids that, that need the extra help, they're over here getting the extra help. The kids that are, beyond grade level, they're over here. Why wouldn't we do some juggling, especially at the lower grades?
Yep. I understand your question, and what I was understanding the other question to be, if a kid come to they're in high school and we want to give them the iReady, do we put them in a different class because of the iReady scores? That's not how we use it. But to answer your question, yes, within the classroom, teachers are skilled to do small group instruction, differentiated instruction. So you have a group of Anthony's over here who need this help, but you have a group of Zachary's over here who need that. Classroom teachers have the ability to do small group instruction to ensure that both groups get what they need.
But I guess my question is, if having the number of students that we may have in a class, would it make more sense to have a class that had more Anthony's and a class that had more Zachary's so that both Anthony and Zachary are getting what they specifically need? Because you're saying that that teacher has to now do 2 or 3 different things, which is kind of difficult to do.
Director Milton Roberts, let me intervene for just a second. These are decisions that are made at the operational level. At this point, I think your inputs are really important. But what we want to do for the sake of the agenda is move forward. Are there other questions related to implementation that the board needs to know? Thank you so much. I appreciate your patience. We have one additional piece of information and insight. Before we move to vote, the superintendent has a piece of information that we do need to have.
Last year, board, there were about 20 school districts who were in the waiver process of utilizing their district benchmark instead of the MAP assessment for accreditation purposes. And so Normandy entered that process last year. One of the missing pieces was that although we have a benchmark in high school, it's not a diagnostic benchmark that can inform the state that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Or minimum is not diagnostic. And so one of the ways to combat that piece is to make sure we have diagnostic at the high school level as well as the primary and middle school levels. And so having one benchmark instead of 2 different kinds of benchmarks, we were already married to already for K through 8, and so we just decided to do that from for 9 to 12 as well. So this is nothing new, but it helps the district because we're in year 2 of student success readiness network, and so this is part of that process. We need to make sure that we're positioning ourselves because NAC is an icky word, right? And so students are really comfortable with taking whatever their district benchmarks are. Every time you mention the word MAP, they get a little nervous and they perform a little different. So we want to make sure that we're in that conversation around having a district waived to have to take the MAP test, and we can use our benchmarks instead.
Thank you, Superintendent Triplett. At this time, I would like to entertain a vote for the motion that is on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed have the same privilege. Thank you so much. The motion has been approved. Thank you. At this time, we're going to move to item 7.02, Read 180. And hopefully in this presentation, we will move more quickly through the question and answer. We welcome this presentation. We may limit questions to one question from the board, so multi-part questions will be entertained this short while.
I knew it was directed at me. That's okay. It goes on for time. But I appreciate everybody humoring me and giving me the answers. I appreciate it.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Triplett, President Hodge, and Normandy Schools Collaborative Board members. My name is Kate Kane, and I am the Director of Literacy. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening. The purpose of my presentation is to propose the implementation of the Read 180 program at Normandy Middle School and Normandy High School. This initiative aims to address the significant literacy challenges faced by our students who are reading below grade level. During the presentation this evening, I will share the reading data that demonstrate a need for Read 180, provide an explanation of Read 180 and how it will benefit Normandy students, outline the evidence supporting Read 180, give information about the logistics of implementation, and share the total cost of the program. I will be brief in doing that. Why Read 180 at Normandy? At Normandy Schools Collaborative, as Mr. Taylor mentioned, the iReady Reading Diagnostic is administered 3 times a year in both reading and mathematics. The numbers on this slide are from an analysis of end-of-year iReady reading data. The first column outlines the number of students who are reading 2 or more grade levels below their current grade level in reading. As you can see, this is 128 out of 223 students in sixth grade, 113 out of 204 students in seventh grade, 123 out of 193 students in eighth grade, and 124 out of 203 students in ninth grade. The second column shows the number of students with foundational literacy needs of the students who are reading 2 or more grade levels below their current grade level. These are primarily the students who would be targeted for Read 180 as they are still working on foundational literacy skills. As outlined in the table, there are 83 sixth graders eligible for Read 180, 53 seventh graders, 59 eighth graders, and all ninth graders who are reading 2 or more grade levels but below grade level would be targeted. The fourth column lists the number and percentage of the targeted students for Read 180 with IEPs or individualized education plans. As you can see, there are a significant number of students at both the middle and high school levels who would benefit from Read 180. So what is Read 180? Read 180 is a comprehensive reading intervention program designed to support students from grades 3 through 12 by integrating the most effective strategies for Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions into one cohesive solution. In a system of multi-tiered supports in Tier 1, as Mr. Taylor said, all students are given access to essential grade level curriculum. That's the core. In Tier 2, students are provided additional support to master grade level essentials. In Tier 3, intensive support is provided in prior skills, such as foundational literacy skills like phonics, fluency, and vocabulary. In addition to providing effective reading intervention for Tier 2 and Tier 3, Read 180 also provides engaging and developmentally appropriate content tailored to meet the needs of diverse, struggling readers. So, again, content is appropriate for both middle school and high school students. Read 180 works by combining whole group instruction and rotations. And I'm not sure if you can see the second row in the first column, it says extended single period, and the third row, it says double period. Those are the two rows that would apply to both the middle school and the high school, respectively. At Normandy Middle School, students would have an extended single period. At Normandy High School, students would have a double period every other day. As depicted in the model for blended learning, in both models, class starts with whole group learning, followed by rotations consisting of small group learning with the teacher, student application on the computer to practice essential literacy skills, and independent reading to transfer the literacy skills being learned. The class then concludes with the whole group learning again. As you can see, the bulk of the learning takes place in the rotations with students being provided instruction and practice aligned to the literacy skills that they need specifically. This slide simply further demonstrates each of the rotations in the Read 180 classroom, as well as the assessments of success for the rotations, such as completing one session in the software component of the program, completing an independent reading quiz demonstrating that students have comprehended a program-associated text, or completing an end-of-workshop assessment after finishing a teacher-led unit of instruction. At the start of the Read 180 program, as well as throughout its implementation, various assessments are used in order to correctly place students and ensure that they are making progress throughout the year. Students take the NWEA MAP growth assessment 3 times a year to measure reading growth and progress. And when students first begin the program, if they score below a certain lexile, usually a measure of reading comprehension, on the NWEA MAP, they also take the code baseline scan to determine which foundational literacy skills to target. Throughout the year, assessments occur regularly, such as assessments in the student application rotation or the independent reading rotation. All assessments in Read 180 are designed to pinpoint the literacy area of need for the student and ensure that the student is growing significantly as a reader throughout the year. Read 180 is grounded, first and foremost, in the science of reading. The science of reading is a vast interdisciplinary body of scientifically based research about reading issues related to reading and writing. To understand how a student develops into a skilled reader, it is important to look at theoretical frameworks aligned with science. One such framework is the simple view of reading. The simple view of reading has been empirically validated by over 150 scientific studies. It shows us that reading comprehension is not the sum, but the product of two components: word recognition and language comprehension, such that if either one is weak, reading comprehension is diminished. No amount of skill in one component can compensate for a lack of skill in the other. While it is a simple view of a developmental process, obviously skilled reading development is not simplistic. Read 180 uses assessment to determine students' area of need, and then the program is designed to build students' word recognition and language comprehension skills to help them develop as proficient readers. There are also instructional practices aligned to the science of reading. Primarily, in order to build fluency and comprehension in reading, students must be provided with explicit, systematic instruction. Explicit instruction involves direct explanation. Concepts are clearly explained and skills are clearly modeled without vagueness or ambiguity. The goal of systematic instruction is one of maximizing the likelihood that whenever students are asked to learn something new, they already possess the appropriate prior knowledge and understanding to see its value and learn it efficiently. For example, before students learn how to decode simple CVC words like cat and bat, they must first learn letter names and letter sounds. Explicit systematic instruction is built continuously and fluidly into Read 180, both in whole group instruction and in the teacher-led small group instruction. Read 180 has been validated by numerous independent studies published in academic peer-reviewed journals, reports issued by national education organizations, and external evaluation sites. Those studies, journals, and reports are listed here and also included in the proposal uploaded to Board Docs. In order for Read 180 to be implemented successfully, extensive professional development is necessary for the educators and building and district leaders. The quote for Read 180 includes an online Getting Started professional development, an in-person Getting Started introductory session, and facilitated planning so that teachers have the opportunity to apply what they've learned, 3 in-person coaching sessions where teachers get real-time feedback on their practice in the Read 180 classroom, and a leader support professional development so that leaders in the buildings know how to support teachers. The total cost of the program is $147,124.34 for 3 years of Read 180 for both the middle school and the high school. This includes student licenses, teacher licenses, classroom materials, student materials, and the professional development. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for this presentation. For the sake of time, we are going to limit this section of question and answer. Are you making a recommendation that we purchase this program for the cost shared this evening?
Correct.
And so I will entertain a motion to accept the proposal as presented. All of those, I'm sorry, I'll entertain that motion.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. We will open it up for questions at this time. Please limit your questions. Director Belton.
No questions, but thank you for your very detailed presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Pearson.
Thank you for the presentation. My question is this program in any of the urban schools in Missouri?
It is. I can't remember which ones they told me that it's in, but I'd be happy to get that information and share it with you. I've used it both in Washington, D.C. and Chicago. Washington, D.C. as a small learning community leader, and in Chicago as a principal, and got very good results for students.
And how long that was my next question. How long has this program been around?
Gosh, probably about 20, 25 years now. Yeah.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Milton Roberts.
First off, thank you for your detailed presentation. I
Thank you.
really appreciated that. My question, which will be my question for everything, is how does this connect back to Solution Tree, and how does this connect back to the specialists that we have embedded in the schools, and how do all these pieces connect together?
Mhm.
So because there's a lot of assessment,
A lot of
training.
pieces, yeah. The specialists will be supporting all teachers to improve their craft, to improve their instruction in order to meet the needs of students. So that's their role. Solution Tree is also working, of course, with our principals, with our teachers to really get clear on the 4 questions that Mr. Taylor outlined. What do we want students to know and be able to do? How will we know that they can do it? What do we do if they can't do it? And what do we do if they can? So that's the primary goal of the work that the Solution Tree company is doing. So this really aligns to that work. It's really helping us to get clear on the fact that we want students to be able to read at grade level. We're using assessments, both the iReady and the assessments embedded within this program, in order to make sure that we're getting those results. If they can't, then we have interventions built into this program in order to support students. And if they can, then they're exited out of the program. And I've seen many, many, many students exit out of the Read 180 program.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
They got a plan.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's my question.
Director Edwards.
I have 2 questions. My first question is, has I read? Oh, I'm not already. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Has this program been implemented into Normandy before? If so, what was the results? And then why is it only has it been introduced for K through 5th grade? And if not, why not? And why just the high school and middle school?
It has been implemented in Normandy before. I was not here. To my knowledge, the results were successful. Um, but I could get more information on that. One of our literacy coaches who's coming on board in July was a former Read 180 teacher at Normandy. So she has spoken very highly of the program and is very excited that we're bringing it back for students. Why are we not doing it in K through 5? We've got to stop the bleeding early in those early grades. So Dr. Triplett has really worked hard to bring a K to 2 initiative in. And we've already gotten some really good results with that by putting a strong core into place that really pushes foundational literacy skills. So a lot of people have said that our current curriculum, quote unquote, goes back to the basics, but that's just the science of reading. So we're just aligning our curricular resource to what the research says that we should be doing. And then we've really gotten some traction, especially in kindergarten. I'm not sure if you saw when Mr. Taylor put it up, it was a brief snapshot, but at the end of this school year, 70% of our students in kindergarten, under Dr. Payne's excellent leadership, are now reading on level. That means that 70% of students are going into 1st grade reading on level. That's a game changer. So at K to 5, we've really got to make sure that we're starting with that early literacy in K1, 2, hitting it really hard. And then if students don't get it, which inevitably that happens, we still have what's called a block B for intervention and support to try and catch kids up as fast as possible. Read 180 is a very intensive intervention that really supports our older students because it is appropriate for them in terms of content and age appropriate materials.
Thank you, Secretary Taylor.
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to know if and when are we able to receive any information or data concerning the results that you've achieved in the past?
About the use of Read 180?
Yeah, as far as any data that you have, anything that we can see visibly that shows, this program has worked, these are the results. Are we able to see any of that information?
Sure, I could get
Find
studies
it.
from Read 180 about that and share those. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if this question is directed to you or to our president. Is it possible for us to receive the information before we actually make a vote?
Um, do you want to amend the motion
Yes, I would
to
like to amend the motion. Yes, sir.
to postpone a vote until we receive information on results?
Yes, sir.
You've just made my job really complicated.
I'm
All right, so
I'm just making sure that I'm not out of order asking that.
I got to go to my handy book of Robert's rules here. There's an amendment. Oh, it happens. It would have to happen after discussion and before we take a vote. I think it is during the vote. Yes.
All right.
All right. So, additional questions.
Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation. It was very clear. You mentioned something about there being at least 3 reading assessments during the implementation cycle. When would those assessments occur?
So, in order to determine if a student is eligible for Read 180, we're using the iReady diagnostic. Once a student is placed into the program, then there are assessments embedded in the program. So, the first assessment that a student takes is the NWA MAP. That helps determine their personalized learning path on the computers in the student application rotation. It also helps the teacher know what content to target when they have the small groups. And it also helps us to determine which books the student is reading in the independent reading rotation. So that's done 3 times throughout the year.
Good. Now, I guess the other thing, as I remember reading 180 from years ago, it was actually an internet-based system. Is it still that way?
There's a computer component. So the model, again, the model for blended learning is to me the easiest because it has the visual. So it does start with whole group learning. The student application is the on the computer component. So it's one of the 3 rotations. So there's small group learning with the teacher, the explicit systematic instruction with the teacher, the student application on the computer, and then the independent reading component where the student is reading at their level in order to continue to practice the literacy skills that they need to practice.
And the reason I was asking that question is right now, my understanding that the high schoolers are the only ones that are able to take their computers home. And so because of that, can it be structured to create accelerated learning where kids can actually work on it when they're not at school?
Yes. Yes, it could be. If they have a computer, if they're able to take a computer home.
At the high school, they can take them home.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Point of order. So concerning, I have no questions at this time.
Okay.
Concerning the request to table, if a board member is not ready to vote, be it lack of information, a sensitive topic, people need more time to process or deliberate, or other urgent matters came up, a member may make a motion to table the item. The motion needs a second, and it is not debatable or open to discussion, and then it needs a majority to carry the motion. The important thing to remember, however, that it must be readdressed at the next official meeting, which means that we will postpone a vote for this, not to next month, because there is no meeting next month. It will be 2 months from now before we can make the vote on this particular topic.
Point of clarification. I know that while this meeting is in June, it is my understanding that we will have a special call meeting sometime this month because we have to approve the budget by state statute by June 30th. So that gives us an opportunity to revisit this at our next meeting because that would in fact be our next meeting.
Okay. So, would you like to make a motion to table a vote? That you have to make a motion for that, Ms. Taylor.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we table this decision until next meeting.
Is there a first?
Not first.
Is there a second?
Second.
You cannot second your own motion.
I was waiting on you to say that.
Without a second, the motion will fail and we will go to vote. Okay, the motion to table has failed. We will make a vote at this time All those in favor of the proposal as it has been moved, please say aye. Aye. Are those opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. The motion does. We have two noes. Um, yes, absolutely. So the motion does pass. And thank you for your presentation this evening.
Thank you.
Item 7.03, Get Ready by Vista, followed by an additional presentation from Better Family Life this evening.
That's all. Good evening again.
Good evening.
The purpose of this presentation is to propose the purchase of a newcomer curricular resource published by Vista to enhance our instructional support for multilingual learners within the Normandy Schools Collaborative. This newcomer resource proposal is designed to build oral language proficiency and support our newcomer and beginning level proficiency students, facilitating their successful integration into mainstream classes and promoting their academic achievement. In this presentation this evening, I will share with you the number of multilingual learners in Normandy, describe what it means to be a multilingual learner and a newcomer according to state and federal guidelines, share the number of newcomers at Normandy, and provide a description of the newcomer resource being proposed and how it supports language development. As you can see in this slide, the number of multilingual learners at Normandy has seen a significant rise, increasing from 104 at the end of the 2022-23 school year to 214 at the end of the 2023-2024 school year. This substantial growth highlights the urgent need for Normandy to be responsive to the unique needs of multilingual learners. Addressing these needs will be crucial in ensuring that all students receive equitable access to quality education and support. So, what does it mean to be a multilingual learner? Understanding what it means to be a multilingual learner is crucial for providing effective support. According to DESE, a multilingual learner is a student aged 3 to 21 who is enrolled or preparing to enroll in an elementary or secondary school, does not speak English as their primary language, and whose difficulties in reading, writing, speaking, or understanding English impact their performance on state tests or in mainstream classrooms where English is the language of instruction. Recognizing these challenges is essential for developing strategies that ensure multilingual learners can succeed academically. This process further clarifies how students are identified as multilingual learners. First, upon enrollment, all students complete a language use survey that describes when and how a language other than English is used by the student. Second, if it is determined that a student speaks or understands a language other than English, a WIDA language screener is administered. Finally, if the student meets the eligibility criteria, parents or guardians are notified and the appropriate placement decisions are made. However, multilingual learners are not a homogeneous group, as their language proficiency levels vary widely. The Access for ELL's assessment, the assessment that all multilingual learners take every year that measures all 4 language domains across various contents and grade levels, identifies this range of language development, indicating where a learner may fall along a spectrum. For example, Level 1 proficiency describes students who are just beginning to use words, oral phrases, or memorize chunks of language to express ideas in speaking. In contrast, Level 6 proficiency represents students who use sustained, connected oral language with confidence, coherence, and precision, tailored to the purpose, audience, and situation. In Missouri, in order to exit and not be receiving services as an ELL anymore, a student has to achieve a 4.7 on the Access for ELLs. So you can see where that might fall along this language continuum. Students who score above a 2.5 on the Access assessment should generally be integrated into mainstream classes with appropriate scaffolding and support. However, for newcomers or students in the early stages of English language development, it is important to focus on building their oral language proficiency in English first. It is therefore important to clarify what it is to be a newcomer. A newcomer is a student who has arrived in the U.S. within the last 3 years, according to the U.S. Department of Education Office of English Language Learners. However, the exact number of years they have lived in the U.S. is less important in determining newcomer status. Their level of English proficiency, both linguistically and instructionally, is the key factor in determining if a student needs newcomer support. These students typically require designated support to access academic content effectively. If newcomers are defined as students with a score below a 2.5 on the Access for ELLs, a commonly accepted and used definition, then these are the number of newcomers currently at Normandy at various grade levels. 16 students at pre-K and K, 30 students in grades 1 and 2, 38 students in grades 3, 4, and 5, 19 students in grades 6, 7, and 8, and 29 students in grades 9 through 12. There are a significant number of newcomers at Normandy who need the opportunity to build oral language proficiency, ultimately facilitating their successful integration into mainstream classes and promoting their academic achievement. The plan at Normandy is to provide newcomer students with pull-out support using a high-quality resource to address their unique needs. Additionally, all multilingual learners will receive scaffolding and support within mainstream classrooms to ensure their academic success. By integrating specialized assistance and in-class support, Normandy aims to create an inclusive and effective learning environment for all multilingual students. The Newcomer Resource, published by Vista, is a comprehensive program for newcomer and beginning level proficiency students. It is built upon the specialized knowledge necessary for working with culturally and linguistically diverse learners, the assets they bring into the classroom, and the academic challenges they face. It is the most comprehensive program for newcomers and beginning proficiency learners. It builds proficiency in all language skill areas, including vocabulary, reading, listening, speaking, writing, and grammar. It provides concrete strategies for helping teachers meet the needs of multilingual learners across the range of abilities within and across proficiency levels and language domains. It includes highly visual presentations to support students and activities that help students access grade level content and prepare them for mainstream classes. And it aligns with WIDA standards, the standards measured by the Access for ELLs. The Vista Newcomer Resource at Normandy is grounded in research on best practices in language acquisition. This includes anchoring instruction and content to enhance literacy success, continuously developing vocabulary, and providing multiple opportunities for academic discourse and oral language development. These strategies ensure that newcomer students receive comprehensive support tailored to their learning needs. The total cost of the program is $41,712.98 for 6 years. This includes teachers' guides, digital access, student books, and professional development. I am happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Thank you. Director Belton.
Thank you.
Director Pearson.
Thank you, Ms. Kane, for your presentation. My question is, will someone that's already within the district that's working with these students, is that person going to be the person to implement this program?
There are currently 2 EL teachers who are able to provide the pull-out support at this time, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Director Milton Roberts.
I guess my question is, how are other students being leveraged so that they get exposure to these students and so that we can expand their horizons and so forth around the whole notion of inclusion and, education. And even if most of the students are speaking Spanish, are we helping our students to learn Spanish so they can communicate with those students?
So all multilingual learners have to be integrated into mainstream classes. So mathematics, science.
Right.
So they would be in classes with their grade level peers. However, this would be in addition to this extra support for newcomers, would be in addition to the support being provided in those mainstream classes.
Right. But there's no social emotional component for our other students to help to also scaffold those students. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, that would be something where that's a point where we could grow. I will say that I had the opportunity to meet with a high school student the other day who is a multilingual learner. She's totally bilingual. She was born here. She's a multilingual learner. And she's actually just interested in being a resource for newcomers who come to Normandy, to come to this country and come to Normandy. So I met with Miss Lourdes Mills, our parent liaison, and her to start to think about how we can form a student group at the high school in order to make sure that we're welcoming new families and make sure that they also feel supported because obviously the language, the culture, everything is new. But that was an initiative that she took on. Dr. Brooks was kind enough to put me in touch with her, and we took it from there. It was totally student directed.
Thank you. It's also an opportunity for, it may be an opportunity for our students also to shore up what they're doing by instructing or helping someone else.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you, Director. Director Edwards,
I have no questions at this time.
Thank you.
Secretary Taylor,
I thank you for the presentation. I read over the information. I think it's a wonderful program.
Thank you.
Vice President Humphrey.
Just one question. When you had the breakdown of all the different grades and students, is the language primarily Spanish that, or
Speaking
is it,
to the microphone.
oh, sorry about that. This particular breakdown, the 132 students that are listed there, are they all Spanish speaking or are there other languages in there?
They're mostly Spanish speaking. However, students, I mean, again, even within that group, students are diverse. So they're coming from different countries, have different experiences of either broken schooling or uninterrupted schooling. So it just depends on the student specifically and their background, but mostly homogeneous in terms of the home language that they speak.
And I guess the other part of that, I know probably one of the school districts that's closest to us that has a large Spanish speaking population is Pattonville. Have you by chance talked to them to see what kinds of programming they're using around the same subject?
Yes, the multilingual learner team and I just had the opportunity to go to a PD at Ed Plus and interacted with several other school districts there, and they were among those school districts. Yes.
Thank you. What's the next level to this kind of intervention? What comes after this?
So after the main goal is for students to acquire oral language proficiency. Generally, when we talk about language acquisition, there's two things we want to keep in mind. The first thing is that when students first are acquiring a second language, they have to get basic interpersonal communication skills. So they have to be able to carry on a conversation, order food, talk on the telephone. But after that, the next level of work, and the work for really all of our students, is that academic language proficiency. So really building language in the content areas. So the vocabulary of biology, for example, how to have discourse about science. That's really the next level of work. And it's really making sure that our teachers, all of our teachers, feel comfortable with multilingual learners and are able to support them fluidly within the classroom to build their academic language proficiency.
Great. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the expenditures as they've been outlined.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any additional discussion?
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Ms. Rigsby, by roll call vote.
The roll call vote for Get Ready. President Hodge,
Yes.
Vice President Humphrey,
Yes.
Secretary Taylor,
Yes.
Director Edwards,
Abstain.
Director Milton Roberts,
Yes.
Director Pearson.
Yes.
The yes has it, President Hodge.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your presentation. At this time, we're going to ask our friends from Better Family Life. Thank you first for your patience. And we're going to ask that you be efficient with your presentation. Hopefully, we can do that in 5 minutes or less. Thank you so much.
All right. So I can be even more efficient. I thought the presentation was here. Good evening, everybody. Dr. Triplett and the board, we thank you. And we will be brief. In the interest of time, we will do what the ancestors taught us to do and stand up and be seen and speak up and be heard and then sit down and be appreciated.
Amen.
Better Family Life, we been in partnership with the district for at least 17 years here. Our mission primarily is to bring resources and to restore our community through youth programming, through workforce development, through cultural arts, through community engagement as a whole. Primarily, we have 4 basic programs here in the district that start at the elementary level and go all the way up to the high school level. At the elementary level, our programs are used through the after school program, which I'll circle back to. And then at the middle school level, we have prevention programs around sexual risk avoidance education, conflict decision making, and health decision making. At the high school level, they move right up through the same type of programming through our VFL Cares program, which focuses on those same skill sets, but places an emphasis on social emotional learning through the help of our clinical department. So this year we've been able to service school children at every school level, elementary, middle, and high school through our clinical department, through our partnership with the Washington University School of Social Work, and them supporting us by embedding social workers in our program. I'm kind of lost without that presentation there, but I'll continue on with this point. In our 21st Century After School program, which we've had here for the last 15 years, I think it has been, we're in the process of renewing that application. It's been a federally funded program for the last 5 years. For the next 5 years, we would receive another approximately $5 million to continue that program in the district through various partners with the St. Louis Chess Club. We would be in partnership with the St. Louis Science Center. We would also be able to increase our presence with our clinical staff in the after-school program as well. One of the things that we did do in the prior administration, or the administration before that, under Dr. Ryder, is our staff were trained in the I-Ready program because there was an attempt the goal was to increase the academic element of the after-school program there as well. And so our staff were trained on that system because we wanted to carry on that activity in the after-school program. So they've been prepared to help facilitate that program. One of the shortcomings was access to Chromebooks for the kids in the program, but we were able to work through that as well. What we've seen, just in closing, what we've seen is increased awareness around healthy decision making for kids in our program. We've seen children who have at the high school level in our Ready for Life program, where they get a training in soft skills and they get a workforce experience program where kids who complete the program can earn as much as $2,000 over an 8-week period in a work experience that they choose. They work with a caseworker through our agency to be placed in a space where they have an interest in pursuing career and college goals. Last year at the high school, we were able to place 15 of those students who completed the program. There were 60 who initially got started in the program, and for various reasons which we're trying to show up in terms of our outreach and reaching into homes because there's an element of it that the parents have to participate in. And so That's an element that we're trying to shore up to increase that level of participation so that more kids have opportunity to that. I feel like I rushed through that. I was trying to
You've done an excellent job, sir. You've done an excellent job. Thank you. We have received information from Dr. Brooks on the evaluation process, and so we've had an opportunity to review the evaluation report, and we've got a recommendation from Dr. Brooks to renew this contract for the 24-25 school year. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve that contract extension.
So move.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions? Being none, I will entertain a vote at this time. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate the work that Better Family Life does in partnership with our district.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. At this time, we will move into items for consent. The information has been provided to the board, and so I will entertain a motion to approve. A motion to approve those consent items. There will be an opportunity for questions, but at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. We do have our friends here from ESS tonight to entertain any questions that you may have related to ESS. All right, so we'll start down with Ms. Belton. Ms. Belton, any questions? Okay, thank you. Director Pearson.
For ESS, my only question is there a plan to bridge the gap between the fulfillment of the positions? I noticed that there was a lot of that we needed substitutes and we didn't have them. So is there some type of plan to I guess fill that blockage, that gap?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Phil Engel with ESS. I appreciate everybody's time today. But as an organization, we are always recruiting pretty much every day out of the year, trying to fill as many positions as we possibly can. When we started our partnership here at Normandy, I think there was about 4 substitutes that we had, the district had on staff. We got that number up to almost 80. And we are filling about 50 jobs a day. So we're doing quite well with our recruiting, and we're continuing to recruit pretty much every day. So yes, we want to fill as many jobs as we possibly can.
Well, I mean, as far as them showing up to those positions, not just assigned to the school district.
Showing up, like attendance, making sure they show up. Oh, of course. Yeah, we track that very closely. Jessica works with all the schools. If anybody does not show up, the schools can reach out to Jessica, and then we take the appropriate action on the incident that might occur. So we really are pushing to make sure that if you take an assignment, that you show up for an assignment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Pearson. Director Milton Roberts.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Should I ask that again? I don't know if I heard that right.
Questions at this time?
All right, Secretary Taylor. Vice President Humphrey.
No questions.
Great. I have no questions at this time. Thank you so much for your attendance here tonight.
Absolutely. We appreciate the partnership and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll take a vote at this time on the on the acceptance of the consent items. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed have the same privilege. Abstentions. Thank you. The consent agenda has been approved. At this time, we will go to the item 10 on our agenda, which is Joint Executive Governing Board announcements and comments. Item 10.01, and let us be brief. We will start with Director Belton.
as always, thank you all for everything. Thank you for your support. Thank you for making me feel like I am heard. Uh, keep it brief. I will not be going to nationals, guys. So, um, some things happen. So just be on the lookout for anything else that I have up my sleeve.
We're very grateful for your representation and your efforts. Can we please give her a round of applause and her work? You are a champion by all standards, Ms. Belton. Thank you. Director Pearson.
I'm gonna try to keep it as brief as possible. Um, the school year has ended. A few things that I want to point out is collaboration and accountability. We, parents, community, the school district, we must work together to bring our school district where it needs to be, not just for the education for our scholars, but for them for life. We are adults. We know that life is not nice to you. So a few things is, continue with structure. We can't function without structure. You can try to function without structure, but you won't be successful. Be consistent. We have to put our egos, personal agendas, the finger pointing, the vendettas. We all have to put that aside and realize that the picture is bigger than us. It's about the students. Sean Carter said, hold on, what did he say? My bad. He said, nobody wins when the family feuds. So we are a family, whether y'all like it or not. My next thing is we had a lot of negative press throughout the school year, but we did not highlight all of the positive things. At the end of the school year, our seniors had 80K in scholarships. I counted myself. That's as of last week, and it could be more that I just probably missed. But not 80K, 800K in scholarships. Um, so we wanted to make sure that we highlight those things because again we get a lot of negative press. I'm trying to keep it short because I had a lot to say, but I do want to end with a message to the class of 2024. That was our 100th class from Normandy High School. It's by Adolph Robert Thornton Jr. They don't want you to live. They don't want you to succeed. They're smiling your face, pray for you to fall. But you have to stay focused, even really when you really want to crash. Just think about where you at. Think about your past. Don't change yourself. Be confident. Continue to be your best. Be yourself. And don't worry about society and what others think. The summer is here. Let's keep our kids active and reading. If we gotta have them read the junk mail, the street signs, um, the letters that you don't want to read, let them read it so they can learn new words, what things mean. Just keep them active because uh, social media is a bad place. You can't have them in front of the screen all summer. Y'all have a good summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Pearson. Director Morton Roberts.
I'd like to say a couple things. The first is I'm just excited to see all the folks here. The second is that we are on the eve, if you will, almost of Juneteenth, which is next week. And I think that that's very important because it signifies a whole lot for our people. We have spent a long time making lots of journeys trying to move forward. And so we need to make sure that our children understand that we're here fighting and pushing and trying to make sure that they've got all the things that they need to be successful. Sometimes people throw barriers and things in front of them. They got to step over them, move around them, go over them, whatever the case may be. I'm the daughter of a gentleman from Mississippi born in 1919, Jim Crow. Okay. But all his kids went to college. All his kids have one or more degrees. All his grandkids do too. Okay. So there's nothing our kids can't do. They can soar. If, to your point, if they've got to read stuff in the grocery store is a great place for kids because they can learn numbers, they can learn all kinds of math, they can learn measures, they can read. Everywhere they go, they've got to read. Reading is fundamental. That's an old saying. If they don't have a library card, get one for them because we can't do this by ourselves. We need everybody in the community to be helping our babies learn how to read. That is not, the director's responsibility on our own. We have to help with that. Okay. So we need to be giving them pencils and paper and books and library cards. Okay. Yeah. I mean, reading. That's the key right there, reading, because you can't do math if you can't read. You can't write music if you can't read. You can't do much of anything if you can't read. So that's my message. Happy summer. Celebrate Juneteenth safely. Think about our traditions. Think about all the work that people have done to get us to this place where we are right now, but also realize that we still have lots of work to do.
Thank you, Director Edwards. Secretary Taylor. I'm sorry, that Milton Roberts, Director Edwards.
Understand you want to skip me.
No, I do not.
I would like to say that as a new director of the Normandy School District Collaborative, it has been an experience thus far. 3 months in, this is our third board meeting. I've learned a lot. But as representative for our community and for our students, my main focus is that we have a cohesive system that works well, and that we can see our guidance of our students be successful not only in school but out of school. So I am eager to start the new school year to continue to focus on that cohesiveness and also to focus on parent engagement to strengthen that collaboration. And that is it.
Thank you, Director Edwards. Secretary Taylor.
Good evening again. I'd just like to say I am so thankful for all of the different programs that are being presented here on tonight for our children. And we know that they are in the best interest of our children. In addition to everything that has been said about teaching our children to read, whatever it is, teaching them math and helping them to understand the more knowledge you have, the further that you can go in this life. I do want to say to our superintendent, I am impressed with the numbers that we have received this year, and I believe that our children are coming up, and we are looking forward to nothing but greatness from our children. I do want to say to ESS, thank you for your patience. You all have been here all night and we didn't have any questions. They came in as I was coming in. And so we appreciate you all coming and we appreciate everything that has been presented. I said it on last month. I'll say it again today. It is the end of the school year, and some of our children are in homes where we have no idea what they are experiencing. And so let's just remember, if you don't pray, learn how to pray and pray for our children because we don't know what they're going through. We pray that they have a good summer. We pray that when the school year begins in August, that they will come back ready and geared up. And then I just thought about something as I was sitting here. You know how at the high school graduation, at the end of the ceremony, and all of the graduates stood up and they threw their hats and their tassels up in the air. Well, I want to say to all of the Normandy staff, throw your hats up in the air and go out and have fun this summer. And I know you all will be working. I saw it. I saw the email. So you all will be working a few days. But enjoy yourselves. Enjoy yourselves. And this is what the summer months are all about. Time for us to spend time with your family. Spend time with your family. Those of you all that don't know me, I am very family oriented. I am a mother of 4, a grandmother of 7, and a great grandson. And so I'm all about family. And so have a great summer. And we look forward to the next meeting, which is what, in July, August, June? Okay, the June meeting. All right. June 25th. Is that on my calendar? Okay. I see you June 25th.
Just got it. Thank you so much, Secretary Taylor. Vice President Humphrey.
Tonight was a very exciting night for me. And the thing that brought excitement for me is that we spent a large portion of tonight's meeting talking about how we're going to support children. You know, as we went through the NSBA training, he gave us one word, and that word is relentless. I can't wait to see the data that's coming because I'm all about the data. Because at the end of the day, we have to make data-driven decisions. One of the things, Dr. Triplett, I would like to thank you as well as your senior leadership team because I don't know if many people watch what happened tonight. When Mr. Taylor was giving his data presentation, there were some questions that were asked of him that he didn't have the answers for. But his team rallied behind him to provide the answers to even strengthen a good presentation.
Mhm.
I'm tearing up. I often operate by passion. And when I see teamwork on behalf of our children, it takes me to a place that invigorates me even more. So when you see me tear up, just know that we're in a good place. And I'll stop right there.
Thank you, Vice President Humphrey. It's 8:50. We've been here for almost 3 hours. And most of the people who came in here at 6 o'clock are still in this room. Um, this is the commitment that it takes to do the work that we're doing. So my comment tonight are my modified words from Longfellow. He said, "The heights by great districts reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward in the night." Thank you for spending the night with us. We will hear from our superintendent.
Make it brief.
It's like
You ain't supposed to be here. You're on vacation, so make it brief.
Yes. Yeah. No, this is this is the icing on the cake, though. This is icing on the cake.
Use your professional voice. Make it brief.
So I know that I stand in the way of nap or rest and food or whatever you're gonna do after you leave here. But I just want to give you an overview of the year. We know we've had a whole lot of negative press and a whole lot of naysayers, and we have some in-house feuding as well. But I want to provide some light. How do I move this? It's moving here, but it ain't moving.
there it goes.
So this year, we implemented our new K-1-2 literacy initiative. These are the results of the first three of the benchmarks this year. We wanted to take it a little step further, and as Ms. Kane said, that when we identified, we wanted to make sure we can have some conversation around are our kindergartners first grade ready? And when we took that toll, we found out that as of our third benchmark this April, we found that 70% of our kindergartens are first grade ready for next year. So I want to give a special thanks to Dr. Payne, who really, really hit the ground this year. The numbers look skewed, and we have some growth, which is why we really, really that Reading 180 is going to really net us some really big outcomes this year once we implement it with fidelity. the one thing we're doing this year, and to really focus in on Mr. Humphrey's question, I am relentless around making sure every student is tested in this district to make sure we get the right diagnosis and the right treatment for our kids. So our third benchmark, 24% of our 3 through 8 students are at or above grade level, which is very low. We tested 1,318 kids, and 316 of them are at or above grade level. We got some work to do. So when we start talking about how are we great stewards of the taxpayers' dollars? So we wanted to make sure that we're cutting all non-essentials. That means positions, that means contracts, that means going out and getting our money back, refunds. If you know me, I'm a real stickler for going to get that money. And so have to make sure that people who owe us give us what they owe us. And so this year we were able to, with refunds and canceling contracts and all that, save the district $5.4 million. Coaching climate. As bad as people say our schools are, many schools in the United States, including this area, are bad. So when they talk about Normandy Schools Collaborative, our attendance grew. It only grew 2.9% as of now. We still have to do our June file, so that attendance number may go up, which is still a 2.9% increase from last year. Any increase, I love celebrating because we need to be celebrated. Every win is a win. So when we look at our out of school comparison, there was more than 39% decrease in out of schools. Last year it was 2,303. This year's 1,401. We'll be a little more aggressive with some restorative practices, right, Mr. Nave? All right.
Yeah, it's okay.
Out of long-term expulsion and suspensions, we had 168 last year. This year we had 42, 70-some% decrease. Amazing. So this is testament of what we're doing in the schools that people are not saying we're doing. Now we see what we're doing and we know where we need to help at, but we don't need to beat ourselves up in the midst of helping each other. So let's either help each other and not beat ourselves up, or help each other, or don't help each other and just move out the way and let us do this work. So I just wanted to give you a brief synopsis of what we did this year. And I have a really quick video I want to show you. And I want to thank Allie for being a part of my superintendent's student advisory. Absolutely awesome. Thank you, Allie.
While we're bringing up that presentation, I want to talk about commitment to this district really quickly. For you may not know, but our superintendent is actually in violation of one of our HR policies.
He surely is.
Our superintendent is on vacation right now. So he's here, but he's not here. But he would not allow us to keep him away from this meeting here tonight. So we got to redo his vacation time to make sure that he's working today and being compensated. So thank you, Superintendent, for being here today. I got 5 on your books. So we got another presentation. While they're doing that, I also want to acknowledge that your board is fully committed to this district. These people are absolutely amazing. The amount of time that they put in to doing their best to live up to their expectations as elected board members is absolutely phenomenal. And for the first time in my known history, we're actually tracking the time. We're planning to track. We're doing our best to put in a new policy where we track the time commitment that each of these board members are making, so that at the end of their term, you will understand how much time they've dedicated to this district. And so when we vote for board members, I'm going to ask you to consider the commitment of this board to this district. when it comes times to vote. Let me tell you how committed this board is. You notice that Dr. Chris Petty is not here this evening. That is because it is his 9th anniversary. He put off celebrating his anniversary this week so that he could be here without notifying his wife. His wife made plans to celebrate their anniversary, and he said, I don't think I can miss my board meeting. He said, I'm going to have to call and get permission to miss. He didn't just call the board president. He called the board vice president and the secretary to ask for permission to celebrate out of town with his family. And we're saying, we'll not be responsible. It's probably doing too much. But that's the kind of commitment that your board has to being present and supporting this district. And so, hats off to all of our board members and Dr. Petty and all of you for being here with us tonight. This is how we make progress in this district. Thank you for your commitment. Now, I talked all this time. We still don't have this thing up, man. Y'all really are pushing it. Y'all going straight for the 9 o'clock just to make it a flat 3 hours. This is 3 hours. Man, I could cast it from my cell phone by now. We could have did a QR code. Everybody could have watched it from their personal devices.
Thank you for everything that they gave us, everything that they did for us. And the voice of the people, I get to voice my opinion, but I'm going to yell there, but I'm going to get in trouble. Thank you. We had a very great experience. I feel like my voice was heard. I feel like I can come to them about all my problems without feeling bad about what I'm saying. And I feel like they taught me how to come with a solution and never just come with a problem.
Being in every single one of each of these meetings has made me feel like that stating what needs to be fixed isn't a bad idea to do. People should speak up for who they are and what needs to be done. And I just feel like that every time in every single one of these meetings, it makes my brain feel more advanced and improves my mental health.
Um, I really appreciate the experience of being here. It was really fun. I learned my voice is not the only one that matters here. It's everyone's voice in this building, the school building, any building. It's not the only voice that matters. I think it's a privilege for everyone here to experience being in a room with the higher ups of these school buildings. I just really think it's a privilege and I'm honored to be here. And basically, it was a privilege to be part of the student council and be in the student council next year. I really like the superintendent group. I feel like most of the student voices are heard now, and we're like appreciated. And one more thing I liked about the superintendent group was how much they showed appreciation for us and all the courage that they built into us to actually say something. Like most of us were scared to come to our principals and ask some things. Now we're not, and this is getting better with the superintendent group. So I'm very happy to be here. It was a pleasure to be here at the Superintendent Advisory Board. I'm glad to be here and to be involved with everything, to just to speak out and help my school.
My experience here at the Student Council Advisory was awesome. The board members are awesome up here. I really recommend people for next year to come up here and enjoy themselves because this is an awesome experience. And I love everything Normandy's doing right now. And if I had, let me get my thank yous out. Thank you, Dr. Hollis and Miss Pearson and Miss Lee at Washington, and thank you, Mr. Triplett and Dr. Taylor for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Look it up for my siblings, y'all.
Beautiful. What a wonderful note to end on for tonight. It is 9:05. Thank you all for being here. I will entertain a motion. Somewhere. As we move on, second. All right, all those in favor? Turn the motion to open executive session. As we move through seconds, all those in favor? I thank you. Have a good night. Thank you, everyone, for